a welcome to another exciting show. The intro music should start soon. And tonight we have Survival Steve and Patrick all the way from the USA. And so we're just waiting for the intro tune to start. And it hasn't started yet, but...
Well, it's 2 p.m. wartime here.
Oh, well, and now the thing is the fireworks have started in the Middle East, haven't they? Someone lit the fuse somewhere. It's boom, bang, a bang time there. And so far the war lies are coming out thick and fast. So, as I say, was it the first casualty of war is truth? And there it is. And I bet you've heard some whoppers. Well, we all have, haven't we? You know, heard some real bleeding whoppers. So let's have a look, see who's first in chat. It's Alice Gorgeous, if I'm not mistaken. Good evening, Alice. And we're DJ B2. Hi, everyone. And, oh, by the way, Alice.
Wake up your mind. Move. Fill up your day. Quite, quite. Smart little boys that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio. Here at FFTradio.com. Club Blue Oink!
And there we go. That was the intro that kicked in. And as I say, welcome everybody. Did I introduce Patrick? I did, didn't I? Yes, all the way from Wisconsin. And tonight, I've decided to keep off of the news headlines of the war in Iran because the internet is awash with it. But I'm going to look at a war from a different angle. Now, I just surprised Steve. You always fell off your seat when I told you, didn't you, mate? You know, I'm a pacifist. And the reason why I'm a pacifist is because, and I've always have been since I was a child, is because both my parents had shell shock. And you then look at things in a very different way. And I remember when I was at school, they went around the class, you know, and I mean, it's a big school. And they said, what, you know, if there's a war, what would you do? And kids would say, oh, I'd be a commando and I'd do this. It came to me and I said, I'd be a conscientious objector. Bloody hell. World War III started. Spat at, kicked at, you name it. But I've never changed my views. And people look on conscientious objectors as cowards. No, because conscientious objectors, majority of them were stretcher bearers and bomb disposal. Majority went into bomb disposal. So they diffused bombs and lots of them got blown up. So that is something that is very much overlooked. And I said that then, I do still believe that. And I'll just give you a little insight into why. And I've got some film here that is quite something. And hang on, I'm just pressing it. I've just got to press the right buttons. Here we go. And here it is. Right.
And what are you doing, Eric? Oh, there we go.
Now that
What are we listening to?
this is a Katusha rocket. Now, I won't go on too long about it, but that, right, I think we've seen enough of that. And the Katusha rocket, the Germans had equivalent to that. I think it's called a Mainwerfer. And my father was subjected, I'm not sure if it's a 24-hour, I'll have to look his book, 24-hour or 48-hour bombardment from that form of rocket. Now, can you imagine that? and he was one of only 2 survivors of his unit. And the field was like a pepper pot, and the other survivor went delirious. And before they went into this field, the trench that was allocated to my father, because they're very small slit trenches, someone pushed my father out of the way and took my father's slit trench. And that man had a shell go straight through the side of his helmet. It killed him. So he did my father a favour. My father would have had that trench. And the reason my father survived was because an unexploded shell went down the side of his trench and wedged down the side of his boot, and he lost consciousness. And that's how he survived. And when he awoke, well, what happened? People were going round. The stretcher bearers were going round saying, "Is anybody alive? Is anybody here?" And they're looking round. They said, "Hang on." He heard them say, "Hang on, I think he moved. There's someone alive." And these chaps tied a lump of rope round the tail fin of this shell, and it was live, remember, and pulled it out the way. Pulled my father out, and my dad thought he'd lost his legs. And then all of a sudden, he noticed that he was walking, and he thought, "I haven't lost my legs." Now, can you imagine the psychological effect that had on him? I mean, he had swollen ankles every day from that time onwards, and he still had to carry on in the war with swollen ankles, and his ankles were really puffed up in the end. Now, they say that if a bomb goes off somewhere, it affects someone for the rest of their lives. Now, can you imagine having that for 6 years during World War II? So that when you have a father that's been through something like that and suffers from shell shock and repeats over and over and over and over every day of his life, World War II, it has no psychological effect on yourself. And this is why when I see pictures of bombing, strafing, bombs going off, we can sit in our nice cozy armchairs and see this. But I think of the children doesn't matter whether they're Iranian or Israeli, the innocent people, the people that don't want anything to do with warfare, the people that are in the way, that get killed, maimed, lost loved ones. Because for everybody, I mean, there's so many dead, I don't know, Americans, I said about 108 dead last I saw. For every one of those 108, there's a grieving mother, wife, maybe orphans, children. And I don't know how many Iranians have got killed. How many grieving mothers, wives for them? So my attitude is I'm always on the side of the innocent person, regardless of who they are. And there's very brave people on both sides. For example, I saw recently an Israeli who point blank refused to bear arms in the Israeli military. He was conscripted. And he said, "I don't kill innocent Palestinians." And he was jeered at, kicked at. I admire his guts. We need to back people like that. How many people on other sides? And this is why I admire Steve, because you had more guts than I've ever got. You stood up to what you believed in against the force of people. You were a soldier. You were trained as a soldier. And from that point, we're at opposite ends, aren't we, really? We were great mates. And the fact of the matter is, you stood up to arseholes who went along with what they were told to do, and you said, "Balls, I'm not going to do that." And that's it. So what I want to look at tonight is wars. Are they really started by demonic psychopaths, which I believe? So let's open up the floor. Patrick, Steve, over to you, mates. What do you think? And what I've just said, what are your views on what I've just said? Do you think I'm a bleeding twat or what? I don't mind.
Can I let Patrick speak first?
Certainly.
Well, as far as them being started by demonic, they may be inspired by it, but I think they're started by men, and the men who choose to be evil, and they don't consider any sort of dialogue before going to war. They've made up their mind that the enemy is less than a human being.
Yeah.
And they're stubborn in that belief, and I think that in itself is a demonically inspired type belief. So I would agree with you to an extent, but really when it comes down to it, it's men making these decisions, and they're ultimately men. Just like you and I, we have a choice of good and evil, and we choose to go. We should choose to do good, but we also have the choice to do evil, and I think that's what people who start wars and provoke wars, they choose to do that.
I'm going to change feeds any minute, so I might go quiet for a moment.
All right.
Right, I've just changed feeds, and I put my camera on. What happened is I just couldn't put questions in chat up on the screen, and there was a question Daisy asked whether my father wrote a diary. Well, he did more than that. He wrote a book. It took him 10 years to do. And as Mark Anthony said, his father, DJ Paris, wrote a book called My World War II. It's available on Amazon. And if you look down in the description down below, you can see where you can get it from. And you won't be disappointed if you read that book, because you'll read about war from a completely different angle. And you may have a very similar standpoint to myself after reading the book. Thank you for
I would
asking.
say something else. I would say that the love of money is the root of all evil, and the people paying the soldiers are the ones culpable. That's another thought I wanted to present.
Okay. Well, before we go, thanks, mate. Before we go over to Steve, Alice Gordon says, Eric, my two-finger salute, if I may, goes to Trump. I would agree with you. Very wise choice there. And I would say equally Benjamin Netty Nutty Knickers. I can't stand that bastard as well. To him as well. The both of, why can't they go and fight it out between themselves? Piss off. Over to you, mate. Steve, you've been waiting very patiently there, so far away.
Wow, what a really intense subject, and I mean, a really harrowing depiction of war as experienced by your father, and hats off to him completely. Because, I mean, I don't want to say I've been there more of the T-shirt, because my experiences probably weren't quite so difficult as what your father's faced. I mean, some of the modern conflicts that I've been involved with are probably pale in comparison to
no, they're still harrowing, mate. They're still harrowing.
Yeah, but compared to what would be classed as a general war such as World War II, with really intense kinetic fighting, that's something else. But either way, men are trying to kill each other, and the injuries and death is never pretty, and it's never something that should be glorified. And as far as a two-finger salute goes, I mean, well done to was it Alice who picked Donald Trump? I mean,
yes.
Absolutely. I mean, a complete warmonger and lunatic, but I mean, completely unhinged, diabolical imbecile as far as I'm concerned. But I would address my two-finger salute to anybody who supports him in his campaign, but not just him, because there's people from other parties, other sides of the political fence, who would do exactly the same thing given their direction from their occult overlords, because that's what we're facing here. We've got an occultocracy where the real masters of society are hidden from view, behind the scenes, directing the puppet show through the able hands of what we call government, a word which in Latin means mind control, because that's what they do. They mind control gullible people into adopting their psychopathic campaign efforts, which, as we can see, one of their master plans is war. Warfare is a strategic master plan of government in order to make money and to spill blood. That's the only two reasons. Of course, you could go into lots of different political dialogue as to why this has happened, but ultimately it's for two reasons: money and blood. Blood sacrifice, because these are satanic worshipping psychopaths, and this is what they do when they play God on earth. Now, what I would say as well, none of this would be possible, and I've probably said this on practically every show I've been on with yourself, Eric.
Mm.
If you want to see an end to war, you need to have an end to government. War would never happen without
100%
government.
agree. 100% agree. 100% agree.
This is where society literally needs to wake up. And I'm quite vocal about the truth movement as well. The truth movement need to wake up to this. The people who don't realize yet that any part of government, no matter who you think the best person in government is, the best advocate for your government is, it's always going to follow a particular trend and pattern. Warfare is one of those because it's essential. Now, I'll mention something called the conflict continuum, which is practically a business model used by NATO. NATO used the conflict continuum. In that business model, there is no scope for peace. Peace is never mentioned in it. Why? Because peace doesn't make money and peace doesn't help the establishment establish itself. But what this establishment, this death cult require is they require what's known as secondary psychopaths. So when I was a soldier, I was a secondary psychopath. What that means is I would willingly take on the instructions of the imbeciles in charge and carry them out to the letter, thinking I was doing the right thing. This is what the police and the military are. They're all secondary psychopaths. This secondary psychopathy extends a lot further than police and soldiers. We could mention this particular trend, this mindset, this dangerous mindset occurred in the nursing and hospital fraternity during a particular health scare, which, yeah, exactly, we all know why we're talking about there. The hospital staff went into their secondary psychopathy to take on the mindset of the people who stand over them to do something unholy. And that's what war is. It's unholy acts of evil, no matter what the justification is. The justifications ultimately are going to be money and bloodletting. And that's it.
The thing is, Stephen Truthseeker, Seeker, sorry, mate, didn't mean to be rude. Now, I disagree in a polite way, and respectfully, I disagree. It says, Carol, evil is part of the human condition. I disagree. I think that psychopaths hypnotize people who are susceptible, and we all are susceptible to a certain degree, into doing terrible things. I mean, I'll give you an example. I couldn't find them tonight, but someone, they disappeared from the internet, put statistics up, and it showed you it was an incredible figure that Chairman Mao was responsible for the deaths of something like 80 million people. You couldn't even begin to imagine 80 million people. He couldn't have done it single-handedly on his own. He'd still be doing it. It required an enormous industrialization of death, basically, infrastructure. And he got children to turn against their parents. And I mean, he is, when it comes to psychos, he was creme de la creme. He was the top of the list. But what I've looked at is that, look at war fever. Now, for example, again, I don't take sides. My attitude is that, you know, am I anti-Muslim, Jewish, Christian? Well, I'm Christian myself, but, you know, am I anti-anybody? No. Am I anti-demonic psychopath? Yes. Yes, I am. I don't hide away from that. But it doesn't mean to say, because I dislike demonic psychopaths, because they're killers, that we should be evil to them. No, put them on an island away from us. They have as much right to live on this earth as we do, but not with us, because they're killers. They are predators. And it doesn't matter what nationality or religion they are, whether they're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Hindu, whatever. You will find them. And they rise to the top. Not all of them that rise to the top, but the majority of them that rise to the top do. And that's what we've got to sort out. And that's going back to what you said, Steve, government. government is full of them because government attracts psychos like bees around a honeypot. And that's it. So if anybody wants to accuse me of being anti this, that, and the other, I couldn't give a shit, really. No, because I've worked with people from all the way around the world. I haven't travelled to those countries, but and out of the lot, I've found Iranians to be one of the nicest people I've ever worked with. Seriously. I mean, I've worked with Germans, Iranians, Israeli, who like bacon sandwiches. You name the country, I've worked with them. But out of the lot, Iranians tend to be the most polite and nicest. And Indians tend to. Those people are nice and polite people. But you get a psycho along and something happens to some people's psyche. And I've seen this in offices, most places. Some of the nicest people can turn into monsters overnight because of one psycho. And this is what I'm writing about at the moment. I'm writing about demonic possession. And I do believe that people can become demonically possessed. I really do believe that. They get a kind of... I mean, you look at what's happening with this war. There's Israelis cheering, going, "Way, marvellous." That doesn't represent all of them. And there's some that are looking, going, "Oh my God, no. No." And no doubt there are maybe Iranians, I don't know. There's Americans going, "Let's get out of war." Doesn't represent all Americans, does it? That's the thing. We got this kind of strange behaviour where we look at a group of people and think it's the entire nation. No, that's it. But over to you, Patrick. I mean, what is the general feeling in the States? Do you get a feeling that of war fever, or can people give a shit like in this country?
No, I get a feeling that people are afraid, and that's a reason that they go after and start wars, is to keep people in fear, because fear's every man's a slave to fear, and it's a useful tool to get people to do what you want them to do. I think that these wars are used as a tool to keep people subjugated, and but at the same time, of course, it's not all. You can always say it's not all, and that there are individuals that break the mold, but you still have to be able to use terms and generalizations in order to describe things. Like you would describe Russians as Russian, and then the Russian government is separate from the Russian people, but they're still a people.
I agree.
And it doesn't, blanket every single one of them, because there are individuals that are not like every other Russian. But there's a generalization that you have to be able to use in order to even talk about a subject, and especially when it comes to warfare.
Well,
so that's the hard part.
Yeah. Asperger's says, inside you, there are two wolves. One is gay, the other is gay. You are gay. And no, I'm not.
Happy. That's what that word means.
Yes, that means happy. Yes. So, Jim Carrey has been replaced. Has he really? That's from the Jolly Man.
What does that mean?
I haven't the foggiest idea. Ideas, please. What do you think?
He's definitely got a different looking face, whether it's some sort of facial surgery or what. But it's definitely
he's known for those faces. Maybe it just he went into one and it stuck. I think that's probably what happened. Just like he did the movie The Mask. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yes. That's interesting. But I actually think that what's his name? Epstein and I can never pronounce a bleep.
Is it
name.
Epstein or Epstein?
Epstein.
Says one or the other.
Well, whatever
potato,
one.
I say potato.
And Janine, who I can never remember her bloody... Was it Janine?
Ghislaine
Maxwell. There must be... I wonder what it's like for both of them in Israel at the moment, as they're sort of walking along, probably arm in arm, with the air raid sirens going off. It depends on what part they're in, So, because I do not for one moment believe those two are... One of them committed suicide and the other one's in jail. I don't believe it. Sorry. Nah.
I don't know what to think about that. I think that he very well could have died, whether he did it himself. I doubt it. He didn't seem like, why would you Why would they let him do that? I mean, I guess because they've got blackmail on people as a consequence. If he's alive,
Yes.
he remembers details. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Because
And
there are people that
sorry.
say that Trump has been blackmailed by him. So maybe that's their way of using. He's still alive, and they're using Trump, and he's blackmailed into committing a war. War crimes. So that's you got to always look at these other things going on that could tell you why things are happening.
That's right. Who knows? I mean, at the moment, on Facebook, between you and I'm actually following Idi Amin's son. And he's bleeding interesting. I don't know what his name is. Yeah, you remember Idi Amin? Yeah, I do know. Have you seen him as well? I like him, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to get him on the show, actually.
On X, I followed Ayatollah Khomeini. I thought he was
Really?
one of the best people on X, standing up for the people in Palestine.
Because apparently, so did Idi Amin stand up for the people in Palestine.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of the stuff, he's actually coming up with the truth. We had a lot of propaganda against Idi Amin. Maybe, I don't
he's
know.
a cannibal, right?
That was the
That
one
was
we
the worst
heard, yeah.
charge. Yeah. He
Yeah.
used to keep people's heads on his desk to
And
keep
that's
his
right, and
enemies afraid.
They ran out of bullets, so they killed Asians by using pickaxes. Sledgehammers. I don't know whether that's true or not. I just don't know. But I like his son. I mean, his son wasn't, it's nothing to do with his son, but, I have to admit his son comes. So, I'll follow him on Facebook. Was he on X as well?
It's like Gaddafi, the way they demonized him. What did he do for his people? He did a lot for his nation.
Yes. And,
A lot of good things.
And our special advisor says, sorry, that wasn't aimed at anyone in particular. Well, I don't mind.
Thank the Lord.
Thank the Lord. That's right. I couldn't give a shit, really. As long as a person is kind, I couldn't give a shit. Okay. In the age of dinosaurs, just an allegory for when the reptilian psychos from off-world come here. Who knows? Who knows? Now, Pink Planet. Oh, if they block the oil, countries will suffer. Well, I keep hearing, I don't know about you, that the Straits of Hormuz
Are blocked.
are blocked. I've heard that twice, but is it the shit of the world? Because look at it logically, would they do that? I don't know.
Why wouldn't they? Because it's a way for them to make them hurt. Because it's their it's right geographically. Iran, it's their country. I mean, what is America even over there doing anything for? Why do we have military bases over there? Our country's over here.
No, but it's Iran's fault for making itself there, surrounded by American Air Force, American bases. You see, that's the way they've turned it around. How dare Iran claim that it's Iran there because American have all the bases all the way around it? I mean,
they built their country around our air bases.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? But it's some of the bullshit they come out with. But now I've got a feeling, because what happened in the 1973 oil crisis. Big oil tankers used to dock, or I think they still do, in I think it's Rotterdam, and the oil would be decanted into smaller oil tankers that used to come into Tilbury, and the oil would come out of the tankers in Tilbury, and it would be piped up to American Air Force bases. There's a pipeline from there. Oops, perhaps I shouldn't say that, but anyway, seriously, and that's where most of the oil comes from for the southeast. And during the 73 oil crisis, the government stopped the small tankers coming over, and there's loads of them anchored up in the channel to deliberately, and then start a rumour that there's no oil tankers coming, start a rumour that there's a shortage of oil. There wasn't a shortage of oil. And what happened? The oil companies made a fortune, and so did the government, because the amount of petrol went up about 3 times the price of it normally did, and the government got more tax. There we go. Criminality, and I've got a funny feeling they'll do the same again. And also, they can push their electric cars, can't they?
So that's
wait for the queues.
That's just another example of how war is good for two things. One of that is money, and most of it's not going to go to the the public, the general public, but it's also good for blood sacrifice, because that's another thing that these satanically minded deviants require. And if we understand the mindset of the Satanists who pull the strings in the puppet show known as normal everyday life, then we've got a better idea of what's going on around us and why. So, for example, warfare is not designed for strategic aims against any particular nation. It's designed to subjugate the people in various, and it's usually the initiating country. So, for example, in America, the American war machine is against the American people. The people serving in this don't have a clue. They don't have the faintest idea that this is so. Same in the UK. The UK war machine, which I was part of, is about subjugating the people in the United Kingdom. And again, while I was serving, or until the latter end of my serving career, I didn't realize this was the case. You see, this is where the secondary psychopaths in the military, the soldiers, the serving soldiers who are secondary psychopaths, take on the instructions from their superiors because they've aligned themselves to a satanic ideology known as moral relativism. Most people on the planet, believe it or not, suffer from this religious ideology. So this is one of the biggest religions in the world. So religion, the word religion, if we look at that first, and this is no offense to anyone from any particular religion, because frankly, and if anyone's unfamiliar with my viewpoint on religion, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't say I despise religions, but I understand that all religions, all Abrahamic religions and beyond, are tenets of mind control. They are a service that provides mind control to the masses. And again, it's quite a deep subject to go into, but if we look at the word religion itself, the word religion from religare means to bind and to hold back. And that I know Patrick's had, and no disrespect, Patrick, I know you've said it means to be bound by the vows of God or something along those lines. Yeah, that might be the case, but equally, what it hasn't done, what no religion on earth has ever done, has educated any of their congregation to step outside of mind control, to limit their capacity to take on board moral relativism as an ideology, and to understand deeply the moral issues that are facing society, communities, and mankind as a whole. Because quite honestly, one of the biggest failures, in fact, the overarching failure on planet Earth today, is the fact that most people do not understand the distinction between right and wrong. So if anyone's interested on knowing what moral relativism is, it's simply the inability to distinguish the difference between right and wrong. And this probably sounds absolutely ridiculous, that most people would, most people on earth would stand up and, without a shadow of a doubt, claim to know that moral distinction. But I will quite literally, I've asked many people, and many people have done these experiments before, and alarmingly, the statistics that come out of what's the distinction between right and wrong, well, 2/3 of people don't actually understand it to be able to define it in a statement. 2/3 of all people. Now we can change that equation. 2/3 of people is 66.6%, a very specific number. 66.6% of people can't define the difference between right and wrong. And if we can define the difference between right and wrong, then society can start to wake up and act in alignment with morality. So that difference is a right is any action that causes no harm to others. A wrong, therefore, is any action that does. So there's no such thing as a good leader. There's no such thing as a beneficial member of government, because not one single member of government, no president, no prime minister, no leader can ever act in high morality when he has authority over others. It simply does not exist. You can't have the two. This is a dialectic that does not exist. You can't have somebody who commands others how to live their lives and again align oneself to being moral. It's any action that causes no harm to others or any action that does cause harm to others. If you eliminate somebody's freedoms, then you have 100% eliminated their choice, their chance of freedom, their chance to engage their own conscience, to take a conscious act of their own volition. So all governments, every single one of them, are morally corrupt. Therefore, all governments are evil. They are de facto evil.
That's right. Now, if you disagree with what Steve is saying or what I'm saying, because I generally agree with Steve, please come on. And as long as it's polite, with nothing's personal. I mean, there was an absolute humdinger of a discussion going on between Patrick and Nathan on your Telegram channel yesterday, wasn't there? Bloody no!
Oh, yeah.
And I typed something in, I took it, I thought, I'm not getting involved. I'm not getting involved. But one thing I did notice, both very polite to each other.
Yeah, it was a good.
It was very good. Very good.
Good argument, good debate, whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's what it should be.
We're just stating what we believed, and there's nothing, no harm in expressing that, because you get to know what people think, and you can adjust your own views even to what they have to say. I think that anybody who's not open-minded when they go into a discussion with somebody or even a debate, that maybe they could change their mind. Well, it's like, what's the point of debating with them if they're not going to be open to it? So that's the way I look at it, and it's good that we're able to talk and speak freely about it, because
that's what it's about.
I think you're right in a lot of regards. I have a little bit different definitions that might take it from a different perspective, but I think that religion to me means it can be a good thing or a bad thing. It's never one or the other as far as that, because it means to bind. It also means like a yoke, like you yoke your oxen and do some work. It's your labor, what you devote labor to. And if you're devoting your labor to something evil, then that's a bad religion. If you're devoting that to godly things, because I believe that and as a Christian, I believe all authority is driven from God, and you can't claim any sort of authority in and of yourself. It all has to point back to God and His law, and right and wrong. And I just want to address one more thing too before we. So what I would define moral relativism as, it's saying that the ends justify the means.
That's right.
Rather than saying the means justify the ends. The means that you do things, if you do things good with good means toward a good end, that's when you're justified. The moment you start to say, well, I can practice evil in order to get a good end, that's when you're practicing moral relativism. It's like saying Iran's threatening war, and they're gonna create a war. Well, we're gonna use evil means to get them to stop creating that war. Yeah. Instead of saying, what you should do is talk to them in order to stop the war. Do everything you can toward dialogue to stop the war.
I agree with you.
Throwing bombs at each other.
Everybody falls out. We disagree with neighbours and families have arguments, but you generally become friends afterwards. You still carry on afterwards, except in my family. And we've got another person in the studio. It's Monica Schaefer. Monica, I hope you don't think I've been ignoring you, but I didn't notice you were there. So please excuse my rudeness. Or you might not excuse my rudeness, I don't know, but sorry about that. Monica from Canada, good afternoon. It's just gone 12 where you are, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. I didn't know if I was actually in the room. I thought maybe I'd clicked something wrong, but then I was listening with great interest to the discussion, and I thought, well, I'll just listen in. And I wasn't too worried about joining. I was just finding it most interesting, but I don't even see myself anywhere showing up, not even at the bottom. But can you
Oh,
hear me?
you're there. I just noticed you about a couple of minutes ago. And I thought, hang on, Monica's there. Have you been on since the beginning, or did you just join us?
No, about 10 or 15 minutes.
I'm terribly sorry. I hope you don't think I was ignoring you, but welcome to the
Don't
show.
apologize.
Now,
I really didn't even know if you could see me. I was thinking of putting in something in the chat, but then I thought, oh, this is just so interesting. I'm just going to let these guys talk.
Yeah, hi, Monica. I heard
Hello,
your show last
Patrick.
night. Good one.
now, Monica is our
Thank you.
ambassador for Canada, I believe. You're over in the west coast of Canada, aren't you? Over the other side.
Well,
So
I'm not
you're
right on the coast, but I am in the westernmost province, but I'm in northeastern British Columbia. So I'm actually quite far from the coast, but it's huge country, huge province.
It is.
Everything is big, right? So, yeah.
And did you know that Britain is closer to the east coast of America than the east coast of America is to the west coast of America? Seriously?
I did know
Yeah.
that, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that weird, isn't it? You would never think it. So
a number of years ago, my daughter and I did a trip to Newfoundland, and Alfred, my brother, and his wife, we decided let's meet in Newfoundland, and they had a shorter flying time to get to Newfoundland than we would have. Now, we took the train, but I know how long it would take, or I knew at that time how long it would take to fly to Newfoundland. It's farther, right? So it's quite a large country we're in.
by the way,
in the east coast of America to the west coast versus going from Britain to the east coast, it's a lot easier to go by foot.
Oh,
You
wow.
wouldn't be able to get there by foot from Britain to America.
Oh,
very
that's what
easily.
you mean. Yeah, that would be a little
Yeah.
bit hard.
yeah, that'd be a difficult bit. But I would suggest that Keir Starmer could give it a try. In fact, I'd give money to back him to give it a try. Now, Asperger's as far says, could we have Patrick as main guest one night, please? That's a bloody good idea. I never
We've
thought
done
that.
that
Why not?
before, but yeah,
Yeah, you've been main guest, yeah. And there we are. Now, the thing is, if we could have a little bit of a... People haven't heard of Monica Schaefer. A little bit of background. Her father was in World War II, was a medic, I believe.
Yes.
There is every possibility they may have been on the same battlefield as my dad. Never might have been. You just don't know, you know.
That's great.
Yeah, and your brother is currently in prison. You served a prison sentence, not because you're naughty people, because it was political prisoners, because of things that you said that is, shall we say, politically not part of an agenda, shall we say?
Yeah, Alfred calls these things blots of toner on paper. They're
Mhm.
laws, and we ignored those blots of toner on paper.
That's right. That's right.
They got in trouble for saying things that Bobby Fischer could say here in America, but they couldn't say in Germany.
That's right. Yes, and we can't say in Britain either. So there we go. But on with the subject, I mean, I suppose it's where in Canada it's the same as in America, and over here it's war. Yes, friends, it's wartime, and we're showing fireworks, and there's lies coming out. We don't know the truth.
You know,
we don't know what's going on.
yes.
We just can guess.
I was astonished to hear that there are Canadian Iranians who are celebrating all across this country. At least that's what I'm being told by the Communist Broadcast Corporation of Canada.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. You had people in the broadcast, the CBC, that are Iranian, and they fly the rainbow flag and all that stuff. They're, because they realize that they're toast if they went back home and they had to follow the morality that they enforce over there. And yeah, there are things that are strict, but it's nothing compared to the wildness of morality that's gone astray here in the West. So I can imagine that they're fleeing that sort of thing to come to the degenerate West. So those types of people would be more inclined to celebrate.
Well, it's been like, I mean, I worked with a chap from Argentina, and I said to him, if the Falklands War had gone on, and us two, we were a similar age, had been conscripted, I said we could have found ourselves on a battlefield trying to kill each other, and we were
Yes.
great pals. And I
Well,
also said this to other people as well. I mean, I work with. I've said this time and time again. You probably haven't seen it in America. Now there's a comedy program called Hello Hello, and it's about the Belgian resistance or French resistance during World War II. But it's a comedy, and it really was funny. And they had an English gendarme who couldn't speak French properly, and he sort of used to say, "Good morning, I'm just pissing by your door," and things like that. It really doesn't sound fun. You got to see it, on YouTube. And I worked with a German chap when that was on television. He couldn't stop laughing over it, and we used to goose step round the office. We used to laugh and joke. Nothing was off limits until a chap came. Unfortunately, a Canadian chap came in who was very politically correct, and that came to an end. Well, I can't do humour, but nobody was hurt. Nobody was upset because humour is bad taste. It always has been, always will be. It's bad taste, and I think that this is what we've lost is our sense of humour. But I feel that all this war. One thing that Churchill couldn't stand, did say that was right, was jaw is better than war. So
yeah, Benjamin Franklin said that a bad peace is better than a good war.
Yeah, yes. And hang on, Exo said, at least Iceland opened their arms to Bobby the chess guru. I didn't know that. Yeah, what happened to him? He died, didn't he, in the end? Did he die?
Yeah.
Poor sod.
Yeah.
I liked him. He was quite a nice bloke, wasn't he?
Yeah, well,
yes.
he was the chess champion of the world, and they loved him until he criticized the people that aren't allowed to be criticized. Yes.
And that happened to be, didn't that happen to be his own tribe? Wasn't he of the tribe himself?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, again, I admire those people. I mean, at the beginning of the show, you probably missed this, Monica. When I was at school, I still am, because of both my parents had shell shock. I'm very much a pacifist. I don't believe in killing at all. And we went around the class, the children, and they're saying, what would you do if you was a war? A kid said, I'll be a commando, and I'll do all this, that, and the other. When it came to me, I said, I'd be a conscientious objector. And you could hear, bloody hell, the bullying I got from that was unbelievable. And I guess you stood up to a lot of bullying being German in Canada when you was at school. Did you find that?
I didn't catch the question that I did what?
Now, what I was going to say is when I was at school.
Yes, I heard that. I heard the story, but I didn't hear the question.
I was an outsider because I got bullied because.
Oh, yeah, that part. So you're saying I was
being German.
Not really.
Now, it's a strange thing. We had a chappie at my school who was half German. His father was German. He was actually in the tank crew, and he got captured by the British and fell in love with a land girl. They're the women that were conscripted to go on work on land. And they had this chap called Paul Schmidt. I always remember his name. And we admired him, actually. We thought, oh, hello. And there's no bullying at all. What was it like for you? Did you find
no, I was not an outsider at all. I had lots of friends. I totally, fit in with everybody. But I did have that experience in the first week of school. And that then was the basis of that little video I made, that forbidden video that they put me in jail for. But just the fact that the second day of school, not the first day of school, because the children would have gone home after the first day of school and told their parents about this funny outfit that this girl had in school. And she was wearing an apron and stuff. So I wore the traditional German dress, the Dirndlkleid, it's a blouse and a beautiful dress and an apron. And it's a really beautiful dress. Anyway, second day, the children were taunting me, like absolutely taunting me, but they didn't taunt me the first day. Why not? They just wouldn't have, children, they don't know. They go home and they talk about it. The parents go, oh, that bad, evil, Nazi, whatever. she's a Nazi. You know?
Oh yes, anybody who German was. But what gets me, Steve might be able to answer this one. I worked with a bloke. I think he was in the forces, and he said that he went to Spain because they're part of NATO, and he said the Spanish looked on the Germans and the British forces as bleeding hard nuts. And he said, if you raise your voice, that's sort of get back. I mean, did you find that, Steve? You know, if you, I don't know if you've been to Spain at all in the forces, but they looked on British and the Germans as being hard nuts. Did you find that?
I can't say I have, to be honest. I mean, they might have a point, to be fair. I mean,
we are hard nuts.
I wasn't a former paratrooper, even though I was, I wasn't a former paratrooper, but I could certainly share some anecdotes about the parachute regiment who were complete crazy hard nuts. I mean, they would walk on a bus and just fight with people just for the crack, because that's what they do. I mean, and they drink another man's urine out of a boot and then dive out of a window with the hair on fire just for the fun. But so I can imagine
Yeah.
And I'm not even joking. So there's probably a lot of truth in that. But
right.
Again, there's crazy lunatics in every nation's
Every
army,
force.
I guess.
Yeah. You could carry on, mate.
There's one point I could kind of expose on that, because any servant soldier, in fact, any soldier, anybody with a soldier's mentality, you know, I mentioned the word moral relativism before, and I mentioned it was a dangerous religious ideology. Religious in the fact that it's a belief, because it has to be believed. You have to develop that understanding in your own mind, and a belief is basically the acceptance of a proposition without fact or evidence to back it up. So that's what a belief is. So when I talk about religious beliefs, well, that's what a belief is. And so if we understand these notions, we're better able to develop the logic that implies wisdom. So we can never develop wisdom. And I'm not trying to come across as the brightest tool in the box, because that's definitely not the case. I'm a former squaddy, so that makes me thick for a kickoff.
No,
seriously, yeah.
I totally disagree with you, because 100% disagree with you. Because if you were thick, you'd still be doing it.
He's being humble.
You're being very humble. Yeah,
I'm being humble enough, because what I'm trying to get across to other people, hopefully, is the fact that, well, if I, as a thick squaddy, can get some of these core principles and come to an understanding and do better as a result from it, then that should be well, hopefully that's encouragement for a lot of other people to think, hey, wait a minute, I didn't major in philosophy in university, but as I didn't, but I can understand some of these philosophical principles simply because I've studied a subject body known as the occult. The occult means hidden, and it relates to hidden wisdom. And with enough exposure to it, which is what I hope to do, and hopefully on shows like this, I can get across some hidden wisdom to other people. If we can understand at a wider scale occult knowledge and realize that, hey, it's not just about it, or it's not specifically about hocus pocus rituals in the woods under a moonlit sky, because that's just one element of it by people who understand how to harness certain powers in nature. That doesn't apply to the whole body of the occult, because when I talk about the occult, I talk about the hidden spiritual moral values under something called natural law, which is what hopefully I hope to get across in a lot of chats and dialogues. But anyway, I mentioned that condition called moral relativism, and that literally is the belief that there is no objective difference between right and wrong. And this is why I'm saying 66.6% of the whole world, the entire population of the world, do not believe or do not know sufficiently to realize that morality is objective in nature. That means it's hardwired into the fabric of nature. And if we go against this overarching law, and when I say law, that means it is immutable, it is a right that is developed into the fabric of nature, we can oppose it, but we can't oppose it without consequence. So if we go against the value of what is right, by acting immorally, then there is consequences to that. I mean, people will understand this better by the term karma. I mean, I don't particularly like that one because it sounds a little bit new age and hippie for me. But if people understand what that is, I mean, more specifically, it is consequentialism, or what is known as in the Hermetic principles as the law of cause and effect. So every action has, you could say, every action in science, in physical science, has an equal and opposite reaction. Well, every action in the spiritual sense also has a consequential effect. So we can oppose morality, and the human race has been doing that quite nicely, and it's doing an even better job of it since we've been subjected to the overarching mind control of government, who take us to war and we fund the war. You know, here's my tax dollar, Mr. Trump or Mr. Starmer. Here, please drop some more. Drop some more bombs on another third world nation. This is moral relativism. And oh, by the way, hello, Monica. I know we've never met or spoken before, but what?
Oh, you
Monica
haven't. Welcome,
No, I've
Monica, Steve, Monica. I'm sorry. How
Handshake.
rude of me. I'm terribly sorry. That is rude. I didn't realise you'd never spoken before. So, welcome.
Thank you. But I mean, I don't fully know Monica's backstory, but if she's been persecuted for saying something, really that she's been persecuted because the powers that be are moral relativists. Monica's, I'm acting on a little bit of insufficient knowledge here because I don't know the full backstory. But if Monica never physically harmed somebody through the actions
she never did.
took,
no harm whatsoever.
So no harm. There's been no harm that's occurred in the universe. No law, no universal natural law has been broken or tarnished. Therefore, no harm has been done to another living being. The only harm is somebody's been butthurt and has seen an opportunity to make money or to persecute somebody as a result. This is moral relativism in action. So if no harm has been caused by the action that you created, there is no element of man's law that can, morally speaking, do anything about it. So man, effectively, society has to be under significant mind control to accept their unholy vows. And this is where the world is at the minute. We accept man's law as our Lord and Savior. We don't accept God's law as being the overarching principle of how the universe functions. And what happens? Well, the consequences of which turn into chaos and turmoil. And that's what war is, just chaos and turmoil as a result of our BS.
Demonic.
That's
right. But I'd like to clear something up because at the beginning of the show, I said I'm a pacifist. I would say I'm a pacifist in the sense, now people say, what would happen if someone broke into your house? If someone broke into my house, I'd beat the living shit out of them. Now, I'm a pacifist where it comes to a government sending me to go and kill some unknown poor sod over in some other country because that government says they're the enemy. Because when you look at it, when you strip it down, the last time this country was really attacked was in 1066, when we really did have an enemy, the Normans coming over, which we lost. And now we're being attacked not by arms, but by people in rubber boats coming over. We're being invaded, but they are destroying our culture. But I can't blame them. It's the government. It always rolls back to the government. So I'm a pacifist where it says government sending people as part of a force because they tell me there's an enemy. It's more like saying, Steve or Monica, the ladies around or the family around the corner are your enemy. Go and here's a gun, go and shoot them. No, I don't believe in that. But I know how to defend myself, and I would defend myself. And if somebody came into my house, they'd get crap knocked out of them. So I'm not a pacifist in that sense. So it's only in the governmental sense I'm a pacifist, not. And I don't like giving myself labels either. So, I would defend myself, yes. And
basically, you don't want to fight those Jewish wars. right?
Or Zionist wars, or whatever wars
Yeah.
that people say. I mean, for
the
example,
government they're just puppets of that certain tribe. But anyway, I want to say hello, Stephen. Nice to meet you. Good to meet you. I also wasn't familiar with you, and I've been really listening with great interest to what you're saying. And I would say you are a philosopher, and you didn't study it at university, but that's probably really good, because my experience is, and this obviously is not across the board. There are some very brilliant people who are wide awake, who have gone through the university system and gotten their all kinds of degrees and whatnot. But in general, I would say that the people who are the most open to looking and seeing and observing and realizing that we are being deceived, they are the truck drivers, or the construction workers, or the welders. They are the people who are doing real work, the trades people. There are people who never went to university. There are people who maybe even dropped out of school, and they just didn't fit in school. So some of these people, they might have dropped out at, in junior high school level even, and yet they are the ones who are wide awake much more easily and readily than the all the university educated folks. That's how I see. They have invested the most time. Though they have invested the most time in getting an education, and I'm making big quotation marks around the word education, and spend money and time doing that, and then that leads to them thinking that they know everything. And they, my own eldest brother, so we're not talking about Alfred, who is in the gulag as we speak, but the older brother, I am still haunted by his words. This is quite a few years ago, when I was trying to explain things to him, and he said to me, "Monica, you mean to tell me?" And he was being very dripping with sarcasm when he said this. He wasn't actually wanting an answer from me. He says, "You mean to tell me that all those university professors were wrong?"
Well, there's a chap called, well, he's dead now. There's a chap was called Fred Dibner. Now, you've probably never heard of him in Canada, and you've never heard of him in America.
Fred, what was his last name?
Fred Dibner. Was it Dibnah?
Dibnar.
Dibner. Now, if you look him up on YouTube, he was quite a character. He knocked chimneys down for a living. Real hard
Describe
worker.
Describe a chimney. You're talking about these big smokestacks.
Oh, these huge industrial chimneys.
Yeah.
He was a steeplejack, and boy, did he have a head for heights. And it makes you go, when he's going up the outside of this massive industrial chimney with just a ladder with no safety harness or anything. And he said something before he died. I think he died about 10, 20 years ago. That really says it all. He said, "Men in boiler suits built this country. Men in suits with briefcases destroyed this country."
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. And he was spot on, because this has happened not only in Britain, it's happened in America, it's in Canada. And this is basically the problem, and you look at Canada now. Now, Canada, apparently, I don't know how true this is, but I was told that Canada prospered from the Vietnam War, not from selling arms, but most of the intelligent fellas in America who were of draft age,
dodgers,
they legged it to Canada, and Canada prospered because their tech industries boomed because they got all the brains from America.
And I'd say a politically liberal as well, as a consequence, because most of those people were liberal-minded in the sense that they were against war. Most of the conservative type people were pro-war, pro-industry and capitalism. So,
Thank you, Patrick, for that addition, because you're absolutely right. Some of these people are total communists. I'm telling you. I've met a few. I know a few draft dodgers, and they are, some of them not so good.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But mind you, I mean, let's put it this way: when I was of military age, I would have legged it out of this country pretty quick.
Oh yeah, my
If I
dad-
could.
One of the biggest enemies of me, when I was in Jasper, he was a draft dodger,
Really?
and he might even have been of the tribe. I'm not sure, but then the people of the tribe, they got their note from the doctor, so that part
Yep.
doesn't really fit. But anyway, he and his wife packed up their van and fled by night and came to Canada. And I used to admire him so greatly because he was such a great environmentalist and all this. But boy, oh boy, when I questioned that religion, the state religion, the World War II story that is 28 countries now, by the way. I just heard this morning that Finland has also now has a law telling you
right.
you are not allowed to question.
The
that-
Holocaust narrative.
You're not
Holocaust,
denying. You're just
yes.
questioning. And if you're not allowed to question something, then you smell a rat. I mean,
Yeah, but
suppose let's look at something innocent like the Flintstones. Say you were not allowed to question the Flintstones. And the
I wanna
cartoon,
play-
you think?
I just want to continue with this Ben
Sorry,
Gadd
carry on, Monica. Sorry.
fellow.
Yeah.
He was actually attacking me before I went down the rabbit hole to discover that lying was not invented on September 11th, 2001. Okay, that was the first part of my awakening, and I hadn't yet figured out World War II. And this guy was really pushing back against me, and I was only talking about 9/11. And then he wasn't logical at all, and he'd always been so logical and smart, and I thought, this doesn't make any sense. So we ended up having this quite a back and forth discussion by email then. I mean, he lived in the same town, but actually by this time he'd moved away, so then we were emailing each other back and forth, and I said, well, what about this? What about that? I was just putting the most logical questions to him, and he was giving me back total garbage. And then finally he starts saying, oh, Monica, the next thing you're going to do is become a Holocaust denier. And me, I'm going, no, where do you think that?
I'm a landing on the moon denier. I don't think anybody ever landed on the moon. So there we are.
But the point is, he connected those dots before I did. He knew that I didn't yet go down that rabbit trail. I did not yet figure that out. You see, I was only partially, like, we don't figure everything out in one day. And so it was.
But
it was astonishing to me. Later I said, oh, thank you very much for connecting those dots.
well,
for
no,
me.
you're put in a kind of little pigeonhole, a little category.
Yeah.
But I mean, but Mark Anthony has just said Fred Dibner was an absolute legend. They don't make them like that anymore.
He was.
Spot on.
He was. I've seen his videos. That guy was amazing.
Did you notice when he's standing on top of this chimney?
Balls of steel.
That's right, about 200 or 300 foot high. He's smoking a cigarette and then just flicks it down the centre of the
Eating a
chimney.
sandwich. Yeah.
That's right, he's eating a sandwich and he's just standing on a plank that's about 6 inches wide. And it's absolutely 300 foot up or whatever. And he's just smoking away, eating his sandwich. Because
like
someone
those-
asked him,
It's
how'd
like
you...
those photos
So
of the
I just
building
want to
and
address-
skyscrapers.
sorry, somebody's
Sorry,
asking
carry on.
in the chat, back to the draft dodger thing, because I brought that up and I just thought, okay.
Certainly.
Or actually you brought it up and then we all chimed in. But so he says, what's wrong with being a draft dodger? I wouldn't fight for anyone in power. Well, this is true. But like Patrick says, usually the people who were draft dodgers were more liberal minded. Pacifists, the people who fought were more conservative minded, but they weren't necessarily awake to what was really going on, and that they were just pawns in this fight for those who were wielding all the puppet strings and whatnot. And so, I mean, it is complicated. For sure, there would have been some draft dodgers who really did understand what's going on and wanted nothing to do with it. and probably everybody on this panel right now and everybody in the chat room would be in that category. But we are deceived, right? So it's by deception that they do all this. And I mean, I'd like to go back to what Steve was saying earlier about this 66.6% of the people don't know morals. But what I'm thinking, there's a little bit another element in this, and it's more complicated than that, is because we have been deceived. I mean, by way of deception, thou shalt make war. That is the motto of the Mossad, is it not? And so when we make decisions that are wrong because of having been deceived, that's not what you're talking about, though, is it? I mean, being moral or taking actions that are immoral, but maybe you're talking about something else. That if
Steve, I think, is talking about himself in the sense that joining the military, you're kind of deceived into believing that you're doing something good for your country.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, can I elaborate?
Yes,
I mean,
certainly, far away.
I mean, when I say 66.6%, I'm on about the entire world. You know, as a group average of the various experimentations and surveys that have been done, that's 2/3 of people can't quote. So it's not that they don't understand morals; they can't quote the difference, the objective difference between right and wrong. And I mentioned that earlier when I said basically a right is any action provided. Any action is permissible provided it does no harm to another living being. So that means practically anything that's not going to infringe upon somebody else's well-being. That means I often give the example, if I wanted to smoke weed all day or grow it and even sell it, that is a fundamental right. It's doing nobody any harm other than potentially myself. So if it's doing nobody else harm, then that is a God-given right in nature. So I advocate for something called natural law. And natural law, I mean, to give it, I mean, there's various explanations of it, but one of the explanations I use is one I've kind of coined myself, which is the governing dynamics of the universe that set the conditions we experience, which are formulated upon the consequences from our collective behaviors. So natural law basically just embodies the Hermetic principles, one of which being the Hermetic principle known as cause and effect, i.e., if we cause something, if we cause an action, there is an effect from that action. So here's two examples of cause and effect, which are quite easy to explain or interpret. Moral behaviors formulate harmony, which enables freedom. So if we act with a high degree of morality, our behaviors formulate harmony in society, and society generates freedom. However, immoral behaviors formulate chaos, which destroys freedom. And this is known as the law of freedom. So this is a mathematical and scientific formula which explains how this works. I mean, you might be familiar with the Freemasonic orders that use the term order out of chaos. Well, yes. Many people have heard of it, but this is how it works. The law of freedom states that when morality improves or increases, freedom increases. When morality declines, i.e. chaos, when morality declines, freedom declines. So it doesn't pay at all for government. Bearing in mind the word government means mind control. The government can't govern a bunch of people who are in the mind free. They can only govern people who need governed, who can't, basically because they're spiritual children. They need the mummy and daddy of government to tell them how to live their lives. If society were morally inclined because it had an education, or were allowed to develop morality in a higher degree because they were of a higher degree of consciousness, then they would be unable to be governed. So basically, government would do themselves out of their job if they were to help to develop a moral structure to society. So What we've got now in society, in the world, is we have complex problems, but the solution is simple. The solution is not my solution. It's not the solution of a religious cult, or any other group. It's nature's solution. So I'd imagine most people listening in today would categorically state that if we were given free reign over what to eat, we would choose to eat natural, organic food.
Spot on.
Straight.
Yeah.
I'd imagine nobody would oppose that. But what we've got is we've got a system of governance which is not natural. It's beyond natural. It's outside. It clashes with nature. It's immoral. So all of man's law, every act and statute in man's law, is based upon immorality, because what it doesn't do is it doesn't help us to distinguish the objective difference between right and wrong. Now, I mentioned that earlier, the difference between right and wrong. Well, a right, this is not me speaking, this is God's law. This is the laws in nature which are discoverable through reason, and as I think it was Charles Rice who mentioned it in terms of natural law. He said the conditions in nature which are discoverable through reason, that give us guidance on how we ought to act, i.e. how we should behave, not from government, not from the Pope, not from the clergy, but from nature. So the solution is natural law, and it's a solution which is offered for free as a result of assimilating the inherent values of the governing dynamics of creation, and it only involves acting in accordance with the rules of nature. So we are, and this is another thing we need to know, we are actually born with this inherent know-how. Every child is born, for example, I've quite often said this, every child, the minute they are born as anarchists. Then they have to become mind washed by society and by education, by government, in order to become statists, i.e. people who believe that government have ownership of their lives. So, but we're all born with the inherent ability to understand simple values. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's going to be no infarction of these, because, occasionally children will fight over a teddy, or they'll throw a sweet out the pram or whatever else, or they'll pull somebody's hair. But fundamentally, people from birth are kind of born with the ability to realize that there is a difference between harm and will, in most cases, try to avert doing harm to others.
I agree with you.
Thank you. It's very, very good. All these things that you're saying, I agree 100%. Now, and I have also seen, articles and studies that babies, they are born with an innate ability to know right and wrong, but in a moral sense, that like what you've been describing.
But there are narcissists. We're all born narcissists.
Okay, but
selfish. We're all born selfish, but that is actually bred out of us. Oh, sorry, just thought I had that bit in.
I just wanted to say, though, one important element that has to be put into all of this, what you have been talking about, this natural law. Natural law also states that to put it simply, birds of a feather flock together. And right now we are being artificially all mixed up by that certain tribe that wishes to destroy. So these morals are not built in to all the races the same equally. Not all the races are equal in terms of, what kind of morality by nature we would have. I just leave it at that.
Well, I think what it is that once upon a time, before we had passports and things like that, things evened themselves out. There was a handful of people from foreign countries in our countries. Yeah, we had Chinese here that started Chinese restaurants, but they were a very small minority. They didn't change our culture. They didn't change it at all. But what they're after now with the Cullen-Ho-Kalergi plan is to completely change our culture. But on with that barefoot foreigner, Scooby's diving into chat, says, aren't most of us descended from the Normans rather than the Celts? Well, the Normans invaded in 1066, and the current royalty have been imposed upon us. The real royal, the last royal of England, is buried in Waltham Abbey, just up the road to me, and that was Harold. And he got an arrow in his eye. And they said, oh, you got an arrow in your eye. I said, no, it isn't. It's a big eyelash. Anyway. No. So, and I'm hoping to make a film. I'm hoping to go to Waltham Abbey. You better see Waltham Abbey. So.
Yeah, you keep threatening to do that, Eric.
I know, but it's been peeing with rain, and I don't want to get my camera all wet. I'm going
So
walking around.
Eric, I just wanted to say this was very unexpected when I saw your message there to come on, and I actually
welcome.
Probably should go because I'm.
Is it
open mic it? We're glad you came, Monica.
Thank you so much.
Is it something we said?
No. Honestly, this was just totally spontaneous, and I had something, another.
You're always welcome.
And then this afternoon I've got something else going on. So I just have to respond. I just see it in the chat. They're all races, Monica. There's only one race, the human race. If we act divided, we lose. I could not disagree more. Sorry to say it, Nathan Lucius in the chat. That is a Jewish mind control construct that we have been taught, that we have been misinformed, miseducated on. They have been drilling that into our heads since decades, that we're all the same and it's only the color of our skin. If that was the case, I mean, I'm just going to go to a medical angle. Doctors are very interested in the races because they have to treat patients quite differently with certain, treatments that. I mean, this thing about all the races, we're just one human race and we're all the same. No. Why it is not like how do cultures evolve? It is through blood.
I can't be a Kalahari Bushman. I've got the greatest respect for Kalahari Bushmen. I think they're fantastic people. But as more as I try, I could not be a Kalahari Bushman because I'm the wrong colour, I'm the wrong stature, and I'll probably keel over within about 3 minutes in their harsh environment.
I want to add one thing.
Sure.
The English word for race, if you go into Samuel Johnson's dictionary, he was one of the first, people to create a dictionary that was somewhat universal in England and English-speaking countries. The word race, if you added the caveat that race meaning family, it would be a little bit more precise as to what we mean, because a family, not all families are run the same way. Some come from intact families, some people come from broken families, messed up, and to say that they're all equal is totally wrong, and
that's disrespectful.
I would
this
that.
person
I think what it is we need to respect everybody's different cultures and race. If you went to South Africa, you expect to see Zulus.
I'll just ask,
and if they said, "Oh, we're going to be all the same. We're going to see Scottish Highland dancing," you say, "Well, what the bleeding hell are we going to wait South Africa? We're going to just go up the road to Scotland." No, I respect Zulus. I respect Kalahari Bushmen. I respect all different cultures. I don't want them to be destroyed.
That's right. And if you love your own children doesn't mean you hate your neighbor's children. That's what you're saying, Eric. But anyway, this fellow is really challenging me here. I'll just ask a counter question. This is in the chat there. A counter question would be this: why is it that there wasn't even the invention of the wheel, or nothing more than a one-story building, to call it building, like a thatch hut or something, in all of Africa before the white people arrived or other races arrived? They didn't invent the wheel there even. Now, why is that? If we're all the same, wouldn't they have just made glorious civilizations in Africa too before Europeans arrived? I mean, that's just one very sort of black and white. Pardon the pun.
Do you know where the wheel was invented? Iran, Persia. That's
and Iran comes from the word Aryan. I mean, it was Aryan people.
Yeah.
before, right? So,
It
and
had
there
to
have
come
been
from
great
somewhere.
civilizations all over this earth, and they get destroyed when the gates are opened, basically the final act, and it's always the same tribe for thousands of years who have been at war against us, and they open the gates to the masses, to all the other races coming in, and the miscegenation has caused the decline of all the great civilizations that have come before. So our race, the European race, we create, we have built, we have invented, and so, I mean, to say we're all the same. Anyway, I don't want to.
It's a longer discussion.
It is.
And
And
Oh,
it'll be
he's
very
saying
interesting.
answering a question with a question is a poor response. Well, I'm just telling you with that question that no wheel was invented in Africa. Okay, I'll just word it differently. This guy is, he's just
We're
wanting
being
to
polite, but no, I think
stir the
no,
pot
not really.
here. That's just fine. Why is it that? Well, okay, I shouldn't ask a question, he says. I'll tell you that study after study shows that when you mix people up in neighborhoods, the trust goes down, the crime goes up. Why is that? Okay, oh, don't ask the question. Like, come on. Anyway,
Monica, I could answer that.
What's that?
I could answer that, and I mean, we're seeing
Please.
that. Well, we're seeing the results of that today. As I said, order out of chaos. So that's what the Freemasonic secret societies use as their company logo, their motto. That's how governments organize things. They use the exact same technique. I mean, we might know it differently as divide and conquer, but this is the thing. I mean, I will often tell people that I kind of advocate for occult study. Why? Because this is what the ruling classes are using, occult knowledge, which is almost like advanced psychology of how the human mind works and how people work. And if you understand these dynamics, then you can use it to your advantage and become a controlling group, which is what basically government and the ruling classes are. They're controlling groups over other elements of society who have got inferior knowledge that is being used against them. So these advanced psychological techniques are being used against society in order to subjugate them and to control them. So one of these, as you're probably well aware of, is the Kalergi plan. But this isn't anything new. They've been using this thing for hundreds, if not thousands of years, knowing that there is a difference between, and I'm going to get my words, please try to hear my words here. The cultural differences between groups of people. And remember, the word culture has a root word of cult, i.e., an element of mind control. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, because culture is a good thing in a lot of aspects of society. However, fundamentally, when we look at things at a deeper nature, at the causal level, so they look at the roots of the subject. What's the difference between, let's just say, a tribesman in Africa and, let's just say, a university graduate in America? What's the difference? Well, the difference is culture, and there might be a difference in intellect, and there might be a difference in educational values, and there might be a difference in, let's just say, a difference in knowledge. Fundamentally, all people on earth are of the same ilk. We are all the same. We're all born equal under the eyes of God. And I advocate for natural law, which is essentially the laws of God. Well, if we're not all equal under the eyes of God, well, who is the master class? If we're not equal, somebody has to be more superior. And if we're describing something more superior, what value are we ascribing to this superior masterclass?
I would say that there's no such thing as equality in nature, and you have advocated that we have natural law, God's law, natural law. There is no such thing as equality in nature.
Well, give me an example.
All right. Going back to what I said earlier, birds of a feather flock together. So do the blue jays mate with the gray jays. No, they don't.
Okay.
Okay,
So
and
so
no such thing
in
as
human.
equality. So if that's, it's kind of a, I think that's, with all due respect, that's a communistic tenet, I guess, is that they're trying to.
And one thing too, you could say the
Go ahead.
birds don't shoot missiles at each other when they don't get what they want.
So here's another thing in nature. Do you know that animals and humans are different? I mean, this sounds obvious, and I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence here. Animals and humans are of a completely different species, just like rocks or minerals and vegetables are of a different, entirely different structure. Animals, minerals, vegetables. Humans are not animals. Humans are a kind of animal, but they are of a superior intellect where we can understand reason. You can't ascribe reason and philosophical values to an animal species. So natural law does not apply to the animal kingdom. And this is a fundamental difference that needs to be kind of addressed, because yes, I completely agree there's no equality in the animal food chain, for example. So, for example, a lion will quite happily devour a little bunny rabbit without giving it any thought of compassion whatsoever. Human beings are different because we can ascribe moral values and philosophical judgment to the way we conduct our lives. We can choose to either, and this is an aspect of the universe that many people kind of neglect, I think. And again, I'm not trying to say, to earmark a particular person or a society or anything else, but there is a deterministic value in the universe, and there's also what am I reading there?
Sorry.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, it's changed the subject, but just hit my funny.
No bother.
Please
So-
carry on. I'm sorry if I took you off the.
No problem. So animals, you can't ascribe natural law values to the animal kingdom because they just have to feed. They're not interested whether a thing is right or wrong. However, the human species, the human animal, can, because we can reason. Now, we can reason, therefore, we can reason in terms of morality. Now, an animal doesn't consider morality when it's hungry. When it's hungry, it will just eat. It will devour. So I agree. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't want to. I don't want to interrupt, but I can't let this go about all humans are created equal. So,
well, can I just say this isn't my proposition. I'm just basically ascribing the laws and values in nature. This isn't my thoughts, my beliefs, my propositions.
But that goes completely against nature, because races have very different qualities that are, you've always got a bell curve, of course. So at one end of the bell curve and the other end of the bell curve, you're going to have lots of overlap between the races. But the good scientists in America have been trying and trying and trying for, like, I'm being sarcastic here. They've been trying to disprove differences in IQ between the races, and as hard as they try, they simply cannot do it. There are different IQs between the races.
Yeah.
I mean, that you're not saying that that's not true, are you? Like that?
No. But what I am saying is what difference does that make in the scheme of things? If
they're not equal. They're not equal then.
So what we're teetering on here, and I'm not trying to sound disrespectful or anything here, Monica, but what we're teetering into here is the propositions of eugenicism. So eugenicism is the proposition that there are beneficial genes that should be developed and less beneficial.
I'm not saying good or bad. It's not a judgment, good or bad. I'm just saying there are differences.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dispute that at all.
Yeah, so why right away going into this discussion about eugenics, or, that's a judgment call then. I'm not saying.
Okay, that's fine. Right, so if we're not judging, the point of, and again, I'm not trying to be argumentative or anything. This is the
No,
with the
this is good.
greatest
It's a
respect.
debate. It's a discussion.
This is an excellent discussion, and this is what I'm trying to have on this show, is an Edwardian Victorian discussion where ladies and gentlemen give their point of view, and at the end of that show, people think, well, that person had that good, interesting point of view, and that person had that interesting point of view.
Yeah.
So this is great.
It's
This is just how
fascinating.
it should be. Nobody's being rude to each other. Everybody's being polite.
I've wanted to
Carry
interject
on.
a bunch, but I just enjoy
Yeah.
listening to you two go
Yeah.
back and forth on this because it's a good debate.
Well, in that case, thanks, Patrick. I mean, in that case, and again, I'm just to expose this conversation a bit further. I understand that there is differences in IQ level. Let's just say IQ levels, inherent qualities of intelligence between various, groups of people from whatever particular country. But does that make them less human than other groups of humans from
That's
another
judgment.
region?
That's
I would
judgment
agree.
again.
I would agree it would be judgmental. So
And-
therefore, all men, all humans are created equal.
Oh, well, then I think your definition of equal is, I think we have to define our terms here. Like you keep reverting back to judging, this is better than that. If I'm pointing out that there are differences, very clear differences. Okay, I'll take another example so that we're not just on intelligence.
I agree.
Sex drive, which is dependent on hormones and how early these hormones kick in and whatnot. The Negro race, the Negroids, they get their hormones for sexuality. They reach maturity much earlier than the Caucasian race. And the Caucasian race reaches sexual maturity earlier than the Oriental race. I don't know if you want to call them, like they used to be called the Mongoloid race and Caucasian race and Negroid race. Those three general, there's more races than that, but if you want to divide into three large groups of races on Earth. So these are just objective facts that the age of maturity, sexual maturity, is different for the three large races, okay? And then fecundity is also different between the races. And we could talk about all kinds of different things. It's not just IQ, but the races are different. I'm not making a statement of judgment. These are just facts. And what I alluded to earlier about doctors needing to, if they're giving out medication for certain diseases or whatever, they need to know the race, because races will respond differently to these medications or drugs or whatever. So
it's food as well.
These are
We have different.
differences.
That's right. We have different. There are 7 food varieties depending on what race you come from. Whether you can, for example, the Chinese can't. A lot of them can't actually drink milk. They're lactose intolerant.
Correct.
But I think Mark Antony has said something interesting here. We're all equal, but we have cultural differences that make us behave in different ways. And I put it down, I think there's one word, respect. And unfortunately, when one culture thinks it's better than any other culture and disrespects other culture by wanting to mix them all up together, that's what I'm against, because
That's the part.
That's the thing. You see, I respect other people's culture. If I went to India, I'll just cut that out, I would try and act like a local, and I'd respect people. If I went to America, I wouldn't drive on the wrong side of the road. Well, I'd get killed very quickly if I drove on the road, because I respect you drive on the opposite side of the road. Things like that. And I think that it is respect. And this is what's happening, is we're losing disrespect. It's respecting other people's culture. As I said, I'm not a Zulu. I could never be a Zulu.
We shouldn't
but
be all.
I respect them.
We all have
So
a
that's it.
space. We all have a space on Earth. It's a certain tribe that is artificially throwing us all into a big pot and stirring us all together. It's like you take an artist's palette of colors, and the artist has his palette of, all the different dabs of paint. And if you were to take those and mix them all up, what do you get? Just a mud. You get mud. And this is what the tribe wants to turn all humans into mud so that they can rule over us all more easily. This is like you brought up, Steve, and you brought up the Coudenhove-Kalergi plan. That is the plan.
Yes.
So this does not mean I don't like those people from all those other continents and countries. I just don't want them here in my home, because I do see that there is a push to replace us and destroy our race. Meanwhile, we were gaslit into having fewer children because of the population bomb, which was, this book authored by Paul Ehrlich, guess which tribe he belongs to, in the 60s or 70s, I can't remember which year that was published in, to make us who are conscientious and care about the environment, and so and also the feminist movement, all of these factors pushing us to have less children. Then you fast forward and say, oh, we need workers. Let's have temporary foreign workers. That's how it started in Canada, with temporary foreign workers. Then, oh, it's so inhumane to not let them bring their grandparents over and their wives or husbands and their children. And, oh, well, now we need, it's just on and on, right? The whole thing was a plan from the beginning to mix us all up. And so we need to, for last in, first out is what I say, because the only countries really which are being invaded and through all these means and deceptions and now just outright, open the gates and let them all flood in. It's all the white nations, all the Western nations. Why is that? It's that certain tribe that wishes to destroy, the Caucasian race, the Aryans, because I guess we're the most formidable enemy that they've had all through the years.
But not all of them. I mean, Barefoot, if I could cut in here, Barefoot Foreigner comes out with something, which I'd like to answer. What is the deep fear that leads you to take part in splitting? We need to come together to fight the parasite class. They are trying to get us to hate each other to preserve domination. Well, I can answer that one. A general, when you fight a battle, I'm no military expert. Military expert sitting is Steve, but I'm sure Steve. I can't really speak for Steve, but I'm sure he'd agree with me. A general looks at their units, their troops, and they say, right, those troops are trained for that. Those troops can do this, they can do this, they can do that. So you wouldn't have, the catering corps going in as commandos, for example, because it'd be a bleeding waste of time. No, you'd have highly trained commandos doing it. People in the artillery are generally big people because they used to push the guns around and things like that. You wouldn't have a load of midgets doing it or things like that. This is why I'm calling about respect. Yes, we've got a common enemy. And that common enemy is psychopaths, demonic psychopaths. But we've still got to respect each other's culture and use the strengths that each other's cultures have got to fight that enemy. Because I've said time and time again, you get off an aeroplane anywhere, and 9 times out of 10, the person who's in control or in government will be a demonic psychopath. And it doesn't matter what colour, what race, what religion they are, they'll be a demonic psychopath because they look like us, but they're not like us. But it doesn't mean to say that we should be violent towards them. It means to say that we should separate them away from us so we can live peacefully. That's it.
All right. I'll just say something here that
certainly
this assumption about, getting us to hate each other. No, we need to be very clear on who is doing this to us, mixing us all up. And I would say, I'm going to go back to that painter's palette analogy again, because when you mix everybody up, you erase everybody. So if you want to respect and love the other cultures and ethnic groups, then we should separate ourselves again. Everybody has a place on Earth. This is this is against natural law, back to, talking about natural law. This is against natural law to bring all these invaders into our countries. This is being done. It's not organic. It's not natural. These people were pushed here. Okay, so
and you can't blame them.
Enemy.
What's that?
Yeah, but you can't blame them. mean,
Oh, I
if you
don't.
come-
Please,
This is
Eric.
it.
I don't. I'm
No,
not
no, no,
blaming.
no. I'm
the
agreeing with him. What I'm
individual.
saying is that if you live in a country that's got sod all, and a country comes along,
course.
our treasonous leaders, and saying, "Come to us. We've got lots of money. It's a land full of gold." You bloody go there.
Of course,
And this is what they're
Eric.
doing. They're stirring up trouble and destroying their culture as well as our culture.
That's
That's
what I
they're
just
doing.
said. Let's understand who did this.
I agree with you.
Let's understand who did this exactly. So it's not these individuals. They're just taking advantage. They're what's the word? The expression?
We don't know who our enemy is. That's the trouble. We're all
Well,
looking
that's
think
why
we
I
do.
don't name the enemy.
I
but
think we do.
I know on this show we're not allowed to name the enemy, but we know it's they wear some kind of a little thing on their head, and they you can't criticize them because then you're called anti-Semitic. So there you go.
Can I pop in on that, because I want to query some of this? And I mean, there's been some excellent points. I would say generally some of the things that have been discussed in the last 5 minutes or so, I would be hastened to agree with it on average. However, there's one factor. I mean, the little square, the little black square-headed people. Is that? I mean, I might be mistaken, but would you say? I mean, Monica, would you say, for example, that the root cause of today's problems in the world is because of a certain community in a Middle Eastern nation?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So this is where I would disagree, because they can only influence other people through means of mind control. So no matter what the power that this group have, they can only influence other people through mind control by taking morality out of the equation. So when I talk about natural law, if we have a good understanding of natural law and morality, there's no influence from a single culture on earth that can affect that. I mean, I was a soldier, so I'm speaking, I mean, Eric mentioned the term military expert. So I was a military expert for a job for the best part 3 decades. I mean, you've probably not seen it. Very few people would have seen it, but I produced a 45-minute presentation on the root causal factors and the main underlying causes of the problems faced by the world today, not just by society, not by culture, in the world. These main problems, one of which is government, not just the UK government, not the Canadian government, not the American government, government. Government is one of the biggest problems on earth today, because government is the root cause of many of the things that are brought into the fabric of society. The only way government works is through mind control. So therefore, the causal problem allowing the root cause of the problem into society is the fact that society hasn't developed a clear, objective understanding on morality. Morality and natural law is the answer to all of these problems. I mean, I can say this a million times, but until I provide an education to show how it is.
Steve, I have one thing to add to that. Morality is practical reason. Practical reason is morality. If you can't reason, you don't have morality.
Yeah, but then when I say, I mean, Stephen Truthseeker says, no, sorry, Eric, you are contradicting yourself. No, as I said all the way along, we've got them demonic psychopaths, and there's a large percentage of, and there's a percentage of all different cultures, races, and Christ knows what. And it's, you've got Christian psychopaths, you've got Muslim, Jewish, God knows what. And because they look like us doesn't mean to say they are like us. And this, you go to any government and you will have a psychopath in there. And if you go to Africa, you'll probably find an African psychopath there. Mm-hmm. And they are different to us. Dr. Hare, who's a Canadian leading authority on psychopaths, has come very close, as far as I'm concerned, to saying they are a different species. Now, because of that, and they look like us, and they can be black, white, all different shades of the rainbow. And they can be all different religions, all different cultures. Some psychopaths are harmless to humans. It's the predatory ones. And we should, in a humane way, put them on an island away from us. We don't want them. We don't need them. and their stupid wars.
Eric, to be quite honest, Eric, I mean, I admire your opinions on putting them on an island. However, what I would say to that is, and again, it might sound as if I'm giving you a hard time here.
No, not at all. It's a discussion.
But what I would say is, you believe in a non-violent means. I mean, would I be correct in saying that? A non-violent solution?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Get them on the island now.
So
Sorry.
what I would say to that, if you put somebody on an island, how can you do that without imposing violence upon them?
Excellent point.
Because what you would have to do, and I'm speaking in terms of morality here, and I'm not trying to say that this is immoral what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is this is how easy it is to kind of complicate morality, and how it is a little bit of a mind trap, I guess, in a sense, because in order to put somebody on an island, you have to remove them of their fundamental God-given rights. So when I was talking about earlier that all men are created equal, well, all men are created equal, not necessarily in intellect and hair color and this, that, and the other. They're all born equal in terms of rights. Everybody has natural inherent rights, which are products of creation, not products of the government, products of creation, where a right in nature is any action that causes no harm to others. So if you take government, who are all demonic psychopaths, or mostly demonic psychopaths, and you put them on an island, well, have you got the moral right to do that? And if they say no, what are you then going to do in order to force them to do it?
You've really made me think. Thank you.
The reason I'm mentioning this,
I think you've made me think even deeper. That's an excellent point.
The reason I'm mentioning this is because I agree that if there's somebody acting as an enemy to your fundamental rights, that is government. So all governments now, I would say all Western governments, every single member, whether it's a local MP or the Chancellor of the Exchequer, whatever, they are de facto war criminals, period. They are treasonous war criminals for what's happened during the health emergency and various other things that have gone on for the last 1,000 years or whatever. Indeed. They are war criminals and treasonous. Therefore, they are enemies to the human population, not just to you or I, to the human population. Hello, it's nice to see your face. So
I
therefore,
just thought, I wasn't sure if that would kick me out if I did something different here.
No, why
we
not?
hadn't met each other. We hadn't met each other before, so I thought, I should just show up.
But I'll tell you something.
Give me a high five.
Steve, you've proved me wrong and you've made me think. And that's what the show's all about. Thank you very much. I think I've been wrong. Seriously.
Well, I don't.
And this is what this is all about. I think everybody's frightened of being proved wrong, but I'm not frightened of being proved wrong because that's how we all learn. So I think you've got an excellent point and you put it over well. So thank you. Thank you for making me think.
I'm not trying to prove you wrong, but
no. But I want to learn because we learn from being wrong and listening to other people, and I do like to listen to other people because I've never been a soldier. I've never had the experiences you've had. I've not had the experiences that Monica has had. So I want to hear, and by the way you put that over, you've got a very excellent point. Yeah, how do you round them up?
So I mentioned earlier. I mentioned moral relativism earlier, and moral relativism is the belief that there's no fundamentally objective value to morality in nature, but there actually is. And this is kind of the stumbling block that many people in modern society have, simply because it's been cultured and educated out of us. We are all born with inherent values to accept natural law as an intrinsic value in our own minds. But we have been mind controlled to the point of breaking point over, I dare say my contemporaries 100 years ago would have a greater understanding than I have. And I mean, if I hadn't have had let's just say an education in the occult, in natural law, because that's the only thing that's made a difference to me. I had an education in natural law, and it's helped me develop my mind to realize that, actually, I'm on the wrong side of history. I thought I was one of the good guys because I was a soldier fighting for the country. Then I realized that actually I don't have any right to do horrible, immoral things to other people just because a bloke with a posh suit and a snappy presentation style on the TV give me instructions to do so, because all men are fundamentally equal under natural law. So I agree with Monica. There's massive differences in various semblances of societal groups, massive ethnic groups. This is why government have installed them to create chaos. And when there's chaos in society, they establish order. That's what they're doing, divide and conquer.
Do you know something?
Let's you and them fight.
I'll tell you something. I'm really, really delighted with this show that everybody's being so polite to each other, but getting interesting points over, and not
careful.
getting sort of not being blown up. And this is what I've always tried to put over. That I hope that when the show ends, people will go, "Oh, Monica had an interesting point, and Steve had an interesting point, and that dickhead Eric got some admitted he's wrong." Well, fine. Let's, I admitted you have an excellent point there. And going back into chat, we've been joined by a heck of a lot of people, I must. This is excellent here.
Somebody says, "Oh, you missed the ruckus."
The UN police force knocking on your door at 10 p.m. at night from the Africa and Middle East, but you don't blame them. Interesting point. Well, most of the security people, all of them now, are from the third world. This is what, and I actually think the people coming over on rubber boats are going to be used to boot in our doors. I seriously believe that.
Well, I think it'll be worse than that, to be quite honest.
That's how empires work. They're criminal conspiracies.
What we've got to remember, what we've got to remember is this entity, I'm just generalizing here, but government and whoever controls government have done some of the most heinous things in the last 6 years to the entire human race. What they've realized as well, and this is another important point, probably the most important point, is they've realized that the human race has got no backbone to defend itself physically. Absolutely none. So I'm speaking with a soldier's hat on here. I would say that categorically, and I mean, I'm kind of generalizing because I'm based in the UK. I only understand the UK in terms of a nation, but I would probably say this is the whole of the Western world. A complete lack of, compunction to defend itself using aggression, using the assertive use of aggressive force to defend itself. So, for example, in America, you've got the Second Amendment. Well, all I would say is, why the hell haven't you started shooting the people who are causing tyranny? The ICE teams, the police, the military, the government. All of these should have been disposed of using the Second Amendment rights. And a lot of people will think, oh, wait a minute, he's talking violence here. No, I'm talking self-defense. So there's a difference between violence and self-defense. When you have to use aggression to defend yourself, that is not violence. Violence is when you initiate aggression upon others to violate their rights. If you use aggression to defend yourself against somebody who's removing and violating your rights, that is self-defense.
It reminds me of what my brother said when they came to offer the jab to him. And he's in the prison cell, right? And he just said to them, "Oh, the first doctor that tries to put that needle in my arm is not going to have any teeth left." And the guard says, "Oh, Herr Schaefer, that's so violent." And Alfred said, "No, that's pure self-defense."
100%. This is where we need to be as a society.
That's right.
Well, the problem is you're talking to cowards about war. How do you expect them to do anything if they're cowards? And they lack the ability to think and reason, because that's been taken away from people.
And being organized. So there's lots of people with guns, but there's
no unity.
They're being organized, because if you get somebody doing what you were suggesting there, Steve, then they will just use that as, oh, we're going to make even more clamp down and more laws and more. So it's a very tricky situation.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying it's easy.
No, it's not easy.
Look at Canada. I mean, who'd ever thought that Canada would become communist? I mean, it's
yeah.
Well,
it makes Chairman Mao look sort of moderate, doesn't it?
I've got a question for Steve. I've got a question for you, Steve.
Yeah.
Can we have unity without government?
Well, why would you need unity?
Just like you said to the Americans, you've got the Second Amendment, and it's like, well, how do you do anything if you don't have unity? If you don't have a coherent plan?
So here's the thing. I mean, I'm going to guess that you already know this, or it would make logical sense. The Second Amendment, well, the government didn't give you the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is your God-given rights. It's called the ability to protect yourself from tyranny. It's to protect yourself from hostile acts, more specifically hostile acts from the government. But why hasn't it been imposed? Why is nobody defending their Second Amendment rights in America? If I had a gun, I don't know what I can say on YouTube, but on March the 22nd in the year 2020, I had a pitchfork sharpened outside the Houses of Parliament, ready to engage in mortal combat with the treasonous government in the UK. And I was there by myself because
allegedly.
Because why? Because I realized that was a complete infringement upon our God-given rights, because I understood what natural law means, and I understood already that government were a complete bunch of swindling scum of the highest order, war criminals, treasonous, satanic filth. That's why I was still working for them, by the way. I was still working for this treasonous, satanic scum. That's why I've served notice on the MOD and various other things. But I was there myself because, sadly, there wasn't enough people in society who had developed this understanding yet. And I hate to say it, but you've got people in the truth community now who are still thinking, there's people in the UK worship Trump. And I'm just talking about Trump simply because people in the UK worship Trump, even though they're not in America. So why are people in America worshiping Trump when it's got very little effect on the value of their lives? Why? Because they're caught up in the pageantry of a religious cult called the government, and the showman. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's an influential, articulate bloke who's interesting to watch on the TV. But what they don't realise that all members of government, no matter who you are, which country you're in, and which political persuasion you happen to have, you're all satanically minded, psychopathic filth, all of them. So if we're not anarchists in the truth community, well, we're never, ever going to develop freedom. So just to reiterate on Patrick's point, and sorry, I know this is quite a long way of getting to a point, but unity, you talk about unity. Well, there is unity. The unity that the human race needs is to establish freedom by understanding their God-given rights. Anything else is just a nice to have.
Interesting. Oh, by the way, according to a gentleman, I think it's in the English Constitution Party, it's a political party, who studied the law inside out, England, I'm not talking about Britain, I'm talking about England, still has the right to bear arms. And apparently there was a chap who did have arms and the police arrested him and he got the bloke off.
Well, most people have two arms.
That's right. And what about a coat of arms? Got loads of arms on it and things like that.
Hey, I don't know if you noticed Paul English is here.
He's here. Hey, Paul, we're ignoring you. It's National Ignorance Day, so we're ignoring you for charity.
That's most kind of you.
That's
I don't
okay.
mind. I've been listening attentively. I only sort of got to the speakers about 9:15, and it's been quite lively and interesting.
It certainly
lots
has
of good
been.
Exchanges. No, I've enjoyed it tremendously. It's been great.
by the way, it did work eventually, didn't it? Because I've had a bit of trouble with a computer, and I did a Basil 40. I don't know do you ever see 40 Tales?
I don't want to embarrass you in public any more than I have to, but I'm going to embarrass you in public, Eric. No, it didn't work. I had to go and fix it myself. Never mind. We'll talk about it. It's so tedious and boring that we don't want to waylay the good energy of this show by talking about really trivial things like that. But
I'm sorry, Paul. I thought I did it twice. So, should I blame it onto the computer or me? I think
that's 10 quid you owe me now. It's bill's going up all the time, Eric. It's
fob bobs. Do you accept fob bobs? I'll give you 30 fob bobs for it.
I'll probably have to. I'll be compelled to accept them.
That's it. Yeah. By the way, because we are actually in a separate country, aren't we? We're in Fockham Hall, which is a separate country, and so are you, Monica. So, because you're in the embassy, so
I'm
embassy
not
staff.
in Fockham Hall.
Yes, you are. You're an embassy, aren't you?
I just had to say that because I just think.
Yeah, you are. I think for the purposes of this show, you occupy a cyberspace called. You remember cyberspace? That old phrase from the 90s. Yeah. You're in cyber Fockham Hall, so yeah.
I'm in the Zulu outpost of Fockham Hall, by the way.
That's right.
I'm the cheese ambassador.
And Steve is the defence minister because defence keeps falling over, man. Now, Exo says unity doesn't have to mean communism. That's a language trick.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
And unity, I would just pull it back to race. We need to become more racially conscious, more racially aware, because in my view, that is everything. Like blood is everything. That's why they are trying to destroy our blood.
Well, I think agree also. I think also it's doing great disservice. I mean, look, sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there, Paul, but we're doing great disservice to the third world because we're getting third world doctors and nurses over here when the third world need them. So isn't that racial? Isn't that discrimination? Surely the poor little sods are starving in the streets and need medical attention in third world countries. Don't they need their own doctors and nurses?
So back in the 80s and 90s, we called it the brain drain. But now in this period, it's not a brain drain anymore because they're opening the floodgates wide open to. They're actually letting them, the folks out of the prisons and here go abroad.
Well, this is what Castro did, doesn't it, in Cuba? He realised that America was open arms to any Cubans that want to go to America. So what did he do? He emptied his prisons of all the psychopaths, psychotic murderers, loonies, the lot. And that's why drugs and crime went through the roof in Florida. This doesn't mean to say all Cubans are like that. It's just that he opened his jail. And let's face it, look at it from Castro's point of view, it's a bit of a wise move, isn't it, really? I mean, if you're a dictator of the country, wouldn't you do the same?
Back to practical reason and morality, we have a subsidized media that is used by our enemies against us, and they get us to kill ourselves. That's part of the problem. And one statistic that really disturbs me, and it's the same in America, but in the UK, you have 48% of pregnancies ending in abortion. So people are murdering their own children and not replacing themselves. That is an issue that you're going to have to address as
48%.
much as I'm not joking. Go look it up.
I didn't know that.
It's a symptom, I would suggest, of a thoroughly demoralized people.
Yes.
Demoralized. Well, the practical reason. They've lost their reasoning abilities.
It's not that.
It's not.
No, they haven't. It's not just that, Patrick. It's a whole series of factors, in my humble opinion, that are have been bearing down on people for decades. Ever since World War II, particularly, you've had a situation where the culture's been mangled and rearranged in many ways. You've now got a situation where when young people get married, they cannot buy a house. I have no idea how they're supposed to buy one. Meanwhile, they look out and they see millions of people being brought into this country and being given everything under the sun, including housing, and they're not getting looked after. And this is just a sort of an extension of this plight that's been going on for a long time, sort of like ex-servicemen sleeping in shop doorways at night time.
It's demoralizing.
Add to that that there are clubs or I don't know, where young people sign on to join this club that they vow to never have children because they want to save the planet from climate change.
Right.
Yep.
No joke.
There again is that subsidized media that tells them that the climate's changing, and instead of addressing usury and property ownership and inheritance, they're buying into it, and they're falsely educated. They're falsely indoctrinated in these false indoctrination centers. There's good indoctrination and there's false indoctrination. They're not getting the truth. That's where the problem is. And
the
losing
biggest
their
irony
ability to reason as a consequence.
Sorry, Patrick. Yeah, the biggest irony in this thing, that this vow that a lot of young people are taking, never to have children because they want to save the planet from climate change, is that carbon is the building block of life. So when they tell us to reduce our carbon footprint, they mean our literal footprint, meaning extinguish yourself. You should be extinguished. That is the epic lie of this whole global warming / climate change narrative. Is that, carbon is the stuff of life, and they want us to reduce carbon. They want us to reduce life itself. And then when these young people sign a vow to say, oh yeah, I'm never going to have children because that way I'll do my part to save the planet from this evil carbon, which is the stuff
tragic.
of life.
You're right.
And they're virtue signaling, aren't they? They're virtue signaling. It's this sort of white knight syndrome thing. Look at me saving the planet, and you're not, you filthy pig. And it's very difficult with someone that's in that condition to actually show them that their entire framework of thinking is completely mistaken. You can't. It's just impossible to have that conversation at this moment in time with a huge chunk of people. And I think, it's a process of gradual erosion of people's connection to homespun truths. They've been whittled away and replaced with all sorts of other things, including huge consumption of people's time in the great distraction, which is really what much of the news is all about, because you can barely do anything about these huge, vast events in the world conducted by these maniacs. I mean, apparently, there's a lot of trouble going off in a particular part of the world or nearby, isn't there, right now, and all this kind of stuff. And it doesn't matter even if you know what the exact root reasons of it are, to a degree that the layman wouldn't. It's very difficult to get that understanding across to the layman. It's this transmission of truth process that's a bit sticky and not as effective as I think we'd all like to see, So
I agree.
And that's why they're not having children, although I've got both my sons under strict orders that they've got to have multiple wives and have 10 children by each one.
Well, by the way,
I want you to have 5 wives each. I want 100 grandchildren in 15 years. Now get on with it.
Yes. Oh, by the way, Envro 4000. You put a question to Steve earlier in capital letters, which is the correct way of doing it, and I can't find it anywhere. And it's about vaping on a bus. So I'm sorry, mate. If you can cut and paste it in again, I'll put that to Steve. I'm terribly sorry because I like to put everybody's question to if they have a direct question. So Envro, if you'd like to do that, I'll put the question to Steve. Okay, it's my fault. I couldn't find it.
Do you know what? I've not read that question, but I can guess it to save them the bother. If it's, I don't know, let's just say somebody's on a bus and they're vaping. Is it right to tell them? I mean, I'm just guessing the question. Is it right to tell that passenger to stop vaping? Well, if that passenger has entered into a service and paid for a service, he's entered into a contract of a voluntary arrangement. Well, let's just say it's a voluntary arrangement, which comes with caveats. So if you came into my house and you were vaping and I didn't want you to vape, I would ask you to politely stop vaping. Same with on a bus or public transport. The passenger should rightfully do as is asked by the host. Not only that, if the vaping, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but I can imagine vaping to be harmful. Again, if I'm wrong on that, please correct me. But if vaping is harmful and other people are breathing in those harmful products, then that passenger is causing harm to others. So it'd be correct to tell him to stop, throw his vape out the window, or tell him to F it off. So
the best way would be to do it politely, though.
Yeah, exactly. But
you don't.
I mean, I agree, Patrick. But one thing's for sure: we've passed the point of no return for telling the government, the Gov scum, to politely f off. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, people should be sharpening pitchforks by now. And just to reiterate a point I made earlier, we, the human species, have made it quite clear to members of government and beyond, the people who run government, that we are in no position to defend ourselves. Therefore, when they start coming up with things like, oh, let's go and blow up the Middle East and create another massive conflict, this is bound to have worldwide effect. If this isn't World War III or the initial stages of it, I'd be well and truly surprised at this stage. I would probably keep your calendars peeled for March the 3rd. So we've got a 33 date coming up here, and also March the 22nd, the Satanic Season of Sacrifice. So for some big spectacular. But speaking of 33, I don't know if many people are aware that the pyramid-shaped Parliament building in Iran, the capital of Iran, has got 33 windows on it. I mean, I don't know if that reveals anything to the cult of government believers, the statists out there.
That's very, very interesting. And Daisy's come up with an interesting one. The world is full of people with mental health problems, not enough resources to help people that end in suicide. I 100% agree with you there. We are getting more and more people with mental health problems. But apparently, you're talking about 33, Steve. Apparently, Britain's not to be outdone by Epstein Island. Britain's got its own, where is it? I wrote it down here somewhere. Where is it? We've got our own place now. It's called, I bet you I can't. Oh, yeah, 33 Portland Place. Apparently is Britain's equivalent to Epstein Island. According to
what is it?
33 Portland Place, according to, I believe it's Idi Amin's son, who is actually regularly as a blog on Facebook. So there we go. So
Well,
I'm very sorry if you live in 33 Portland Place and it isn't part of Epstein's Island. It's not like me saying it was Idi Amin's son. So you better go over to Uganda or wherever he is and have a word with him.
do you know, to highlight a comment in chat, it's Nathan Lucius has said, this was a while back, but he made a really good point. Who bears the most moral culpability, the order followers or the order givers? So the order givers would be, let's just say, government, and the order followers are who? Well, pretty much everybody else. So I'm not just talking about the police and the military, although they're the tip of the spear as far as culpability is concerned, but the culpability rests upon those who carry out the instructions of, let's just say, the government. If we carry out orders, no matter what your job description says, such as I was a soldier, soul dead, that's what soldier means. As a soldier, if I was tasked to go and kill people in a third world nation, because I came to understand morality, I realized that killing somebody at the bequest of somebody else's immoral orders that which were given claiming to have rights that they do not possess, then I bear the moral culpability. That makes me the evil one. Because
I would say that the greater culpability is with the order giver. For instance, with Trump.
No,
If Trump, wait a second. If Trump said, no, Netanyahu, we're not attacking Iran, it wouldn't happen. There's the culpability right there. Ultimately, it's with the higher official. But you're right. Insofar as we participate with that immoral order, we're culpable as well. The lower
blackmail
people,
as well, because we don't know.
Less so, because their order followers are lesser culpable than the order givers ultimately.
Right. So
but
all men are created
it's still an
equal.
evil. I'm not arguing with you on that.
Well, can I just mention a few points on this? I mean, I will disagree with you. I mean, I kind of admire the points that you've made and kind of understand what you're saying. But ultimately, because all men are created equal, government are producing rights, or government, Trump, whoever, they're issuing commands that they don't have the right to possess. So because we're all created equal, Donald Trump does not have the right no rightful authority in nature, God-given right to tell me how to conduct my life or what to do for a job or how to conduct that. I, therefore, if I was to follow Donald Trump's instructions as a soldier, for example, or a police officer, I would be the guilty one. I would be the one more morally culpable because I had carried out the action, whereas Donald Trump was just sat in his office on the end of a phone or, pressing something on a keyboard to tell other numpties how to do something.
Well, for your individual action.
Well, the individual takes culpability because this is government realize when they're performing their ritual blood sacrifices and they call it war, they realize that they are less culpable than the numpties who go off and do the bidding for them. So all the soldiers and the coppers who are there persecuting their own fellow brethren are the ones who are facing the karmatic consequence of their decisions, their unholy actions. So this is what moral relativism is. It's, well, because I don't understand the moral difference between right and wrong, I'm just going to follow the instructions given by an imbecile who calls himself the president. And this is one of the big problems. Society as a whole are more morally culpable because they're funding to pay for the bombs that they're dropping on the women and children. We are. That's why society needs to have a moral. They need to have a moral revolution in their own minds in order to accept these God-given facts in nature, to understand how the universe functions. So therefore, we can step forward into it in a better and fabricate a better society based upon what we understand in our own heads.
And apparently, Mark Anthony said 33 Portland Place in London is a residence of Lord Edward Davenport. So Lord Edward Davenport, nip over to Uganda and have a chinwag with Idi Amin's son, because Idi Amin's son is a bloke that said it, not me. So there we go. And not many people know that. Now, Monica, we've had a question about that. Here we are. Exo, who's David, said, nice art piece on your right, Monica, with the cross. Celtic or Germanic? I could answer that, but I think you better do it.
No, you go ahead about the art piece, but then I'll tell you what's on it, because the fine print on it is important. But go ahead with the...
Well, it's Germanic, isn't it? It's German.
Yeah. So
and,
it's our logo for the Truth and Justice for Germans Society. And if people want to go to the website, it's truthandjusticeforgermans.com. And so that's our logo
truthandjusticeforgermans.com. And if they want to write to your brother, you'll be able to find it.
The address is there on the Political Prisoners page, as well as on my website, freespeechmonica.com with a K. Now, I said about an hour ago that I was going to go, but then it just got really, really interesting, and the whole thing has been
are very interesting, like
engaging and interesting, and I've really enjoyed it. And just to one little thing that you said a little bit earlier, Steve, about the pitchforks, and I take my hat off to you. That is fantastic that you were out there with your pitchfork, and it reminds me of what Alexander Solzhenitsyn said. I'm sure you all know his famous words about how when they were in the gulag there, and if only, when the Cheka came night after night and taking away people, that if only they had just gathered together whatever they had at hand, like pitchforks or the kitchen knife, whatever. And yes, some of them might have died, but if some of those Cheka had not gone home, then perhaps it would have stopped it in its tracks, because others wouldn't want to do this nightly raid on people and hauling them away. And at some point, but and Alexander Solzhenitsyn, he expressed that so well, and I'm just saying it from memory, so it's not really a perfect quote here, but he said that they just didn't really understand what was at stake. They didn't value their freedom enough either. Yeah. So that I'll just part with that thought. And thank you so much for sending out that invitation, Eric. And it's been
a pleasure.
Most interesting
Monica,
here.
I really enjoyed it, and I'd like to thank everybody for being so polite to each other. And this is what I believe we need, is polite discussion. so that people, because you get so much on the internet where people say, "Oh, you said that," oh, blah, 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 I'm getting personal. No, we've all got different views, and I think that's how we learn. We learn off of each other,
Absolutely.
and everybody's got their own experiences. So thanks a million for coming on. And
It's my pleasure, and very nice to meet you, Steve. I hope we run into each other again. All
Well,
right.
Awesome, thank you.
May I make a suggestion? Well, make a suggestion that Nathan, Patrick, and yourself with Nathan and Steve would be quite interesting, because you'd have two against the other, and of course I will be neutral.
I'd be up to that.
So how about that? So it'd be Monica, Patrick, and not first. You're saying your piece, and because we've done this before, we've had two people have different viewpoints. We had Anorak, who's a flat Earth believer, and we had Nathan, who's a round Earth believer, and we had a fantastic discussion. And they're both polite, and there's no timing about how long you need to put your point up. You can spend as long as you want, and they give it as sort of like Edwardian and Victorian politeness. And this is,
as you know,
I'm
I'm open to talking, and So anyway, I'm going to leave now. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you very much for coming on. See you, Monica. Thanks. Bye. And that was great, wasn't it? And really welcome, Paul. Paul, you still there?
Yeah. I'm just.
Yes.
I'm
what a fascinating program. Because tonight, about an hour before the show, I thought, I wonder who's going to come on, because it was open mic night, and and suddenly Monica comes on, because I put loads and loads of
you put the word out
things.
From what
I
you
put the word out.
Earlier.
Yeah.
You sent out invitations to all sorts of people.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
Like going fishing. You get a bite.
That's right. We'll have to talk tomorrow or the next day, Paul, about what's gone tits up on my whether it's me
don't
or
worry
me
about that,
or
Eric.
computer.
It's all small
sorry
fry.
about that.
Small potatoes. No, don't be sorry about anything.
Right.
It's just part of the bumblingness. It's okay.
But what I was going to say is that this, in the First World War, they called it war fever, and people got really hyped up about it. And this is where you had the white feather campaign, because if someone saw someone in civilian clothing who wasn't in uniform, who was of military age, women would give them a white feather. And it's a sort of it's humiliating. But what they didn't realise is that some poor sod who's probably in the merchant navy would be in civilian clothing, and they'd probably seen a hell of a lot of action. And this is what happened in World War II to somebody I knew whose father was in the merchant navy, came home, was having a drink in a pub in Liverpool, and this woman spat at him. She said, "Oh, you should be in battle." And he'd come across on the blooming convoys, been just narrowly missing torpedoes coming from U-boats and things like that. So it's surprising. This sort of war fever seems to be hotting up. But
I mean, Eric, I think you're right, but I mean, it's not just war fever, is it? It's not that alone. I mean, there's all sorts of crowd madness that takes place. COVID's a big one,
Yes.
I think that's the bit that was the most alarming about it. For the first time in my life, I saw it, a huge hurdle movement that was not able to think. That's the problem. It's not capable of thinking. And, we're hardwired. This is the other thing. It's a great force in everybody, I think. It must be because, you look at it from the outside and you don't see really much change in human crowd behavior over millennia. It's no different now. We go, we've got all these fancy doodads.
There's a witch.
Yeah, but when
there's a witch. Yeah. Burn her at the stake. She's a witch,
Yeah, but when people are under pressure, when circumstances go bad, there's a sort of default position of horribleness that everybody assumes to survive. That's really, and I suppose, part and parcel of these sorts of chats is to try and ensure that those circumstances do not come about. But unfortunately, they do, and particularly when you've got people that take advantage of that, i.e. The governmental type, the boss type, they couldn't do what they do without the compliant order follower. And the order follower is not exonerated, I'm afraid, that they are responsible. And we've all probably done things that have been compliant with authority. at some point to survive yourself. You survive. If I don't do this, I'm in a lot of trouble, or I do need to do this because I need the money to do that. I can't think of anything I've done that's really bad like that. And most people, I suspect, are similar. But unfortunately, there's a substantial minority that do get put in positions. And this is how people take advantage of them. There's so many things at play, and I think the lack of, I don't view us as a sort of gutless people at all, but we're not in touch with that in the way that we would have been in the past. And there's lots of reasons for that. Reasons, of course, are like, backsides. Everybody's got one. But I think the drop in sort of, for men, physical manual labour, that stuff boosts. I know it all sounds silly, but it does. It boosts your testosterone and your physical vitality. You are more difficult to intimidate if you're physically fit and strong. We've got a whole sort of generation of office workers who are not. We've got a lot of physically weak people. You can see them; they're everywhere. I look at the youth of today, the youths, and they're all blobby. Do you ever remember seeing that film, that Pixar movie? Oh, what's it called? About the little robot that's clearing all the rubbish up in space. I can't remember.
That was years ago.
Wall-E. Wall-E. I went to see that. I nearly threw up. I just couldn't believe how foul it was. Somebody thinks it's really, really cute. It's a little love story about a robot. You've just got all these blobby, stupid humans that you couldn't possibly care for. They were so pathetic. They were like these large babies. And really, that's kind of what they've got planned, And I'm just going back to that thing we mentioned a few months ago about mouse utopia. Culhoun's experiments on mice. That's what we're living in. That's why people are kind of dissolute and unfocused, and you've got all these guys preening themselves, and they've all gone bent and everything, and the women have all gone mad and started, all the female mice started killing their own babies, as Patrick was mentioning. This is what happens when a purpose has gone out of your life. It's a big sort of overarching thing that you never really notice much because you're so busy hacking away at the trees, you fail to see the wood. We're all now in a position where we're standing back and going, "Hey, this tree that's kept me busy is in this shitty wood. What on earth am I doing here?" It's that kind of thing. It's sort of stepping back and getting a bigger perspective. But it's not easy to sort of communicate to a bloke in the pub in 30 seconds. I don't think it is. Maybe someone's found a way. Let me know. Answers on a postcard.
If you knew what you were inheriting from your parents, you would have a lot better understanding and ability to have your work toward that and discipline, because you have something to look forward to. And a lot of these people, the youth, have nothing to look forward to. It's the Klaus Schwabs of the world are telling them, you will own nothing and be happy and eat the bugs and all this kind of crazy stuff. But there's no inheritance to
there's no purpose.
What they're looking to in the future. That's right.
Well, look, perfect example is the Aborigines. Now, the Aborigines, when they lived in their own culture and they went out and they hunted and that, what's happened is so-called civilization has come along, and most of the time they sit around boozing most of the day. And they reckon that the alcohol rate, the depression, all the sort of Western diseases are creeping into Aborigines. Whereas if they were, yes, it's good to be educated, I agree, but now the younger ones are saying, right, I'm going to go walkabout, and they're rediscovering their past. And that's a good thing in many ways. And, I think that this is the problem. One culture imposing its will over another culture, not respecting another culture.
Not respecting the property of another culture.
That's right.
What it's all about. You go into another country and you say, God gave this to me. This is the Bible tells me it's the land deed to this country, and you better leave, or else we're going to make you leave or kill your children. That's what it's come to, and that's the type of mentality you're dealing with. And that's what I'm talking about with inheritance.
I agree with you.
Most people don't understand. It's like you have a royal family that has this inheritance, but you don't. Why is that?
Yes. And also, the governments are blackmailed. I mean, let's face it. I think the reason Trump is going into bombing Iran is because of these. And again, Idi Amin's son, he was saying this. He reckons that. Sorry, I'm mentioning him a lot tonight. He might come on. You never know. Be all right with it. You know. And he saying that he reckons that Israel is, or Benjamin Netanyahu is releasing part of these Epstein tapes to put the fear of crap up a lot of these politicians who have been to Epstein's Island. So they do exactly what he says.
And not only wait a second, not only Epstein's Island, because this happens more than Jeffrey Epstein is the tip of the iceberg. These sorts of things, blackmailing rings, are happening all over the place, all over the world, and not just in that whole circle. That just happens to be the top echelon of the power of the people doing it, but this happens elsewhere, and that's how they get people afraid. And it's, you go back to morality, and Seneca, the famous philosopher from the Roman days, said men have as many masters as they have vices and fears, because every man's a slave to fear. So if you have a vice, let's say like what they're doing with the blackmail, yeah, you're going to fear it. But if you realize that, hey, wait a second, there's a higher morality, there's a higher law to this than just what men say and what people can do. You know, you can kill the body, but you can't kill the soul. A person like that is dangerous once they realize they have it within themselves to make and take a stand against this evil that's taking place. That's why the only people that you're really saying anything about it, you know, it's like the first thing that gets thrown at them is their controlled opposition, but at the same time, it's like how many people are actually in a position to speak out against it, and given that media platform, when the media platforms are all controlled. And that's why we're doing what we're doing.
That's right. And Matilda, warrior, says, the Bible says to have no fear. And this is all we're getting day in, day out, is bloody fear porn. We're getting it pumped at us here, there, and everywhere. And
that's because perfect love drives out fear. And that's what God is all about. Love, and that comes through obedience to him and following his law. And that's it's simple, but it's hard to do.
What is?
So I agree with this. Can I just highlight?
Certainly, come in, Steve.
Matilda's obviously raised that, and Patrick's added to it, which I wholeheartedly agree. Now, if anyone was watching a few months ago, I mean, live on one of your shows, Eric, I can't remember which one, but I'm not going to say threatened. I offered. Some people might recall this. I offered the entire UK military, everyone.
I remember that.
In fisticuffs.
Yes.
And I also extended that offer to everyone in the UK police force. Now, what I'm going to do now is, simply because I've had very little backing from the truth community, I've not had one single person in the truth community who all claim to be massively awake and all morally opposed to what's going on in the world. Not one of them has said, "Oh, Steve, would you like a hand? You might need a hand."
Well, hang on. I've got my Sharpie. I can give you a hand with my Sharpie.
Well, I'm not even going to use weapons. I'm just going to do it with bare-fisted. So I'm going to be a bare-fisted gypsy boxer, and I'm going to pummel the entire UK police and military single-handedly, because I have got zero fear. I might even lose. I'm not even convinced I'm going to destroy them all, but I'm going to extend that offer to the entire United States military and the United States law enforcement. And when I've finished with those bozos, I'm then going to take on the whole of Europe. And by which stage I might need a little bit of a help from somebody else in the truth community if they want to join in and take a little bit of the glory, because I'd feel a little bit too humble to take it all myself. But if I have to do it myself, I will. Because
I'm going to be a bit nifty with a Sharpie pen, thanks to your advice.
Cheers.
So,
you know what,
so if you see someone with black spots all over them, you know that I've been at them. You know.
What makes that even more potent is the fact that you've openly admitted that you are pacifist in nature and you're willing to help. You know, that should be a lot of
pacifist
shame.
in nature, but not full pacifist.
Yeah.
Pacifist where it comes to governments sending me or somebody else to fight compulsorily. But if someone comes into my house, they will get 9 bells of crap knocked out of them. So that's
Or
and
if
also
you
I
see a
believe in
woman
defending
on-
myself.
If you see somebody dying on the street, you're going to go
Correct.
and help them.
Yes,
Regardless
yes,
of who
and
they are.
also if there's children being attacked by nonces, the nonces will get 9 bells of crap knocked out of them. And if a woman's being attacked, I will go to her defence because that's what a man does, and I do believe in chivalry. And this is why people get pacifism muddled up a little bit. And I didn't make that clear at the beginning. I'm only a pacifist where it comes to being part of a group of people sent by governments to go and kill another group of people. I'm against that. But when it comes to somebody coming to attack me or attacking a female or a child or something like that, then yes, I believe in chivalry. And I think that we should bring back chivalry where men will defend women. And you go to any tribe and it'd be the men that come out first and they keep their women and children at the back. Yeah. But mind you, if you read the book, what was it now? Was it Fierce People? A bloke, I think these anthropologists discovered that the men that actually make up the population of the tribe are not the hunters that go out. It's the wimps that stay back and they're knocking it off with the women whilst the hunters are about. Seriously. So there we go. So you learned something there.
What you've talked about there is essentially the two fundamental principles in the universe, which is the non-aggression principle, which should be measured even in equal parts with the self-defense principle. And so if anyone's alarmed by the fact that I'm willing to take on the cops and the military in the entire planet if I have to by myself, it's simply because I understand that the entire police and the military are in violation of natural law. They are violating everybody's rights and principles through the nature of their job. So that makes, not only that, if you go back the last 6 years, they've all assisted and played a part in assisting with the arms sphere, which everybody must know by now is completely abhorrent. And if we can't get angry over that fact alone and realize who's morally culpable in assisting towards that, well, the police are, because in Britain they enforced the 2020 Coronavirus Act, which was another violation of natural law principles to basically enslave other people and violate their fundamental rights. They're all war criminals. They're all treasonous. They're all high order, immoral pieces of excrement. And to be quite honest, unless they hand their kit in overnight, I'm afraid I'm not going to. I personally am not going to tread carefully with them, because they're all legitimate targets in the act of self-defense, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's a good point. Now, we've got 20 minutes to go, and I'd like to ask everybody in chat and ask gentlemen in the studio. Tomorrow night, nobody's been booked to come on. So
I thought you meant by the police.
By the police? Well, I might be booked by the police. You never know. I might have said tit or bum at the wrong time, you
Steve's
see.
going to get booked at this rate. It's fine, though. It'll be all right. It'll be a nice book.
Yeah, that's it. Now, what subject would you like us to cover tomorrow night? So that's it. What subject? So there we are. So, and who would like to come on tomorrow night? Don't all rush at once. So tomorrow at 8 o'clock UK time.
I might come on a little later.
So that's Patrick tomorrow. That will be 2 o'clock UK. American.
By later,
Eastern
I mean
time.
at least after like an hour and a half. So like halfway in.
Clearly, I'm in danger to pretty women who I treat to a nice breakfast. Yeah, I'd like to find out what happened there, mate. It sounds pretty frightening.
I want to say that, Eric, the cowards that stay back and try to do that and be, I think the women would be able to take them on if they're that wimpy.
You got a good point there. Yes, the ones So, oh, sorry, I can't go hunting today. I got a bit of a cold. That type.
With the limp wrist.
Yes. Now, Paul, they reckon it's going to be nice weather tomorrow. So you'll be out with your shorts on. And I hopefully will have the first bike ride this year.
This is important news.
This is very important news.
Whoa, wait. The first bike ride?
Yes, this year.
You have.
I find
no,
I
it's
have
too
to say
cold.
I found
It's been
wearing
raining.
long trousers.
Oh, it's been raining.
I've found wearing long trousers to be the sensible thing to do at this time of year, which is a bit odd, as I've been in shorts all winter long, up until about a week and a half ago. And my theory is that most colds or little rundown periods come at this time of the year when you're coming out of the winter and going, yeah. And so I don't want to sort of rush it. It's always about getting too eager. It was sunny last week, and I'm thinking it's spring already. And I'm looking at the calendar going, no, it can't be. It's only 2/3 of the way through February. That can't be right. So, yes, I think I'm just being wet. I'm one of those wimps back in the village, knocking off all the women.
Yes, I'm a fair weather cyclist.
I'm
I
not
go
really.
by car. Well, I go by car most of the time, but in the winter I'm a fair weather cyclist, so I don't go out when it's cold. I don't go out when it's wet. So it's got to be sort of over 10 degrees and not windy.
Speaking as well of cars, I don't know whether this is me being an alarmist drip. It's not an original idea. Somebody was speaking to me today, and they just suggested this, or just threw the idea in my head. Given that there's all this hullabaloo going on in that part of the world, and are they going to close the Straits of Hormuz, which is somewhere near Doncaster out there, something? I don't know where they are.
Something, yes. That's near the Isle of Man, isn't it?
It might be prudent for those of you who drive quite a bit to fill your tanks up, because it's not that there would necessarily be. I mean, could be complete hokum, so please take it with a pinch of salt. I am as well, but there's a sort of a bit of logic in it. If word gets out that that's going to happen, there's no reason for it to happen, but unfortunately everybody else will absolutely ton it along to the petrol station and cause the very problem to happen by thinking that it's going to, if you know what I mean. But it might be worth thinking about if you drive around a little bit. You might as well just fill the tank up at least. It might sort of stand everybody in good stead for a bit. Not that
That's
I think
right.
it would be too
It's like the toilet paper back in COVID, right?
Well, toilet paper's much more important. Yeah, of course, much more important than petrol.
Apparently, it's already closed. They closed the Straits of Hormuz.
Yeah.
So,
did they? Very nice.
Yes, but mind you, I've got a fart car, so fart cars don't use that much petrol.
OPEC is increasing production as a consequence, I heard.
All right.
But what about all this petrol from Venezuela?
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
And
that's
all,
that
it's
heavy
right.
crude stuff, too. That's harder to make usable for our cars.
I still keep
no
dreaming
say.
about that car that was designed in Los Angeles in 1913 that runs on compressed air, where the exhaust pipe goes back into the compression tank, and it went 500 miles at an average speed of 35 miles an hour for practically no money whatsoever, apart from the oil to lubricate parts of the engine, in 1913.
Yes.
Well,
I get so cross about it. I mean, I understand why it happens, because anybody that comes up, and there's more than just that. There's been loads of these things that have actually solved this irksome problem of urban life by, very low cost. They just get bumped off because it interferes with money making. It just interferes with the money making class, which the government work for.
Now, Steve,
Anyway.
we're all intrigued. What's at the bottom of your mug? Ooh.
Wait a minute. This isn't to get me. I'm going to have to take a drink. You ready?
Ready? You don't allow women to drink out your mug.
Is that what I did? You know what? I didn't even know that.
Well, but what's that? What's that? Oh, man mug. What's happened to the other mug?
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't tell Nathan. I broke mine.
You broke the handle. Actually,
Get a new one.
the handle fell off mine, so Harold died the bastard on it. It hasn't come off. So there we go.
You got to find a better potter to do your mugs.
That's right. Rugmaster said it was Stanley Mayer car that ran on water. And also,
Yeah, they bumped him off.
What about that geezer in France? He's dead now, isn't he? His son's running it. I think you went along to see him, didn't you, with that compressed air car So
Monsieur Guy Negre, yes, his son's
Negre, yes.
running it. Yeah, it was an evolution. That was from a Polish engineer's design in the 1880s. But, I mean, it's just, whatever it is, there's definitely a better way. And they're using motorsport to push this sort of climate agenda. Oh, we're reducing our carbon footprint. We're running the cars with electricity. Yeah,
you
bugger off.
follow
It's just
that, don't
crap.
you? The Formula One stuff.
It's
I hear they're
my
bringing
it's
to
my
America.
veggie viewing. Yeah, you got to have. I don't know about you guys, but I have to have something where I stop my brain cogs worrying about this stuff all the time, because it's from the minute I wake up until I go to sleep. So I've got to find some sort of respite, and walking does it. Walking's, although actually walking doesn't make it worse. It's actually a better place to think, isn't it, really? But
you ever watch,
I do, actually. I don't know
you ever
why.
watch-
Sometimes I'm watching it. I don't even know why I'm watching it. I'm going, why are you doing this? It's because I always have. It's a bit like
you ever
going to the
watch
toilet.
Paul? Do you ever watch the dirt track racing that they do? Kind of like the step down from NASCAR, where they, instead of a nice asphalt track, they use dirt.
I've
Yeah, we have
seen
it in
bits
this
of it. It's
country,
mad.
yeah.
They're all mad. There's a big banger racing thing up round the back here near me, and you can hear them every now and again. And it's
Really?
just we went up there once because they got a go-kart track. It's when my lads were young. I was looking for a go-kart track for them to go and have a bit of fun on. We got there and it was like a World War II bomb site. It was amazing. It was just scrap cars everywhere. It's like a big scrap metal merchant dealer. Just on the edge of the South Downs. I was surprised they had it there. But
Really?
yeah, it's a particular crowd, a particular type of person. And usually lots of alcohol is present, which is not particularly my scene, but, yeah.
Well, there was I got talking to someone once who was a journalist who writes about these hot rods, these cars that go at an enormous speed, and then they have parachutes that come out the back to stop them. What they call it? I think it's called drag racers. That's it. And he said that they want to introduce electric cars into drag racing. He said, I can guarantee there will be no audience. He said it is the noise and all the sort of excitement of that noise that attracts people there. If it just
Some
goes,
of those are pretty fast, though, those electric ones, and they can get up to speed very quickly. So
they can, but
yeah,
it's the noise,
right,
Eric.
You're right, the noise.
Yeah.
It's the noise.
you can't beat a V8.
Well, you can't beat an air display if they've got jets going over. They're just awesome. You just go,
That's
wow,
right.
look at that thing going
Can-
like a bat out of hell. Yeah,
Can
I mean,
you-
I know
that's
the
right.
purposes for them are not good. I understand all that. But, blokes are sat there just thinking about the engineering. Well, I am. I'm just looking, that's so amazing, And and it is. It's all, anyway, it's all part of the sort of public brainwashing. See, the military's a great thing for you. And all that kind of stuff, not something that I necessarily countenance, but it's a funny. There's lots of sort of good things come out of bad as well. It's not quite straight up, I guess, to our minds. Maybe in part, we think, well, if you write it all down on a sheet of paper, how it's supposed to be, and just put it into practice, it'll all turn out great. But the minute you start a plan, anything, the minute you start to act, it starts to go wrong, doesn't it? It just does,
right.
And you go,
I mean-
I didn't plan on this. Well, as soon as you start planning on it going wrong, then you're away. Then you can get things done, because they do. Things go off track whilst you're doing them. They look great on a sheet of paper, though, which is why we probably just all stay at that
that's
level
right.
for a long time.
I mean, can you imagine a remake of the film Bullet that had Steve McQueen in it? That had a V8 Ford Mustang in it. Go, can you imagine
With
it
a
with an electric?
Tesla.
With it's like,
Tesla. Zzz. Yeah, it's not going to cut it, mate. It's no good.
I mean, that film, you got that extract on YouTube, and I often see it. It's bloody incredible, especially when they're going down San Francisco. They go bang, bang, bang down those hills. And they apparently, so I heard, is they actually filmed that at the early hours of the morning and actually damaged a lot of people's cars. And the film company had to pay to have the cars repaired. Because there's a scene where he comes skidding round the corner. It wasn't Steve McQueen, it was a stunt driver. And he did it a bit wrong and he smashed into a couple of cars. Shouldn't laugh, poor sods, But you don't get films like that anymore, do you? I love that film, Bullet.
I can't imagine what bank robbery films in the future are going to be like. There won't be any, will there? I mean, you just can't,
Computer hackers. That's what that'll be. Some sort of thing like that. Bank either won't even be a need to go rob a bank like Jesse James or any of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's taken all the fun out of life, hasn't it, really? But we still don't know what what do you want us to speak about tomorrow? And who would like to come on the show? I mean, it could be any range of subjects.
How about solutions? Because I know that's been mentioned. I think it was Alice
Yes.
George who mentioned solutions.
Yes.
I mean,
Or 101 things you can do with a catapult.
yeah. I mean, I was.
I think
I mean,
discussions
I was
about solutions would be good, Steve, actually.
Okay, solutions.
Well, yeah, because it's always problematic when you're discussing them, which is part of the solution. Is how do you discuss solutions? But yeah, it's like when you move. How much more do you need to know about the problems to begin to act upon them? And you end up
agree.
to some degree in a holding pattern. You go, well, I just need to know a little bit more, and you go, actually, we know enough. We know enough. Yeah, but we might get it wrong. Believe you me, we will get it wrong. Absolutely, but we got to act. It's to do something.
I 100% agree with that. It's the time
DJ
is.
Bootler.
I mean, for example, the truth movement. If you're still stuck in that endless loop of the conspiracy hole, if you're still looking into conspiracies, then you're just putting yourself on hold from taking solutions. I don't look at conspiracies. I know it's a conspiracy. It's always going to be a conspiracy. So we need to firmly establish that for a kickoff. We realize it's all conspiracies. And what we've got to realize is dissect that and come into something called causal problems. One of those is government. The other one is morality. Both of these are the problems in society. And if you understand the problems at a deep level, then you can understand and work upon the solution. So I'm happy to come on tomorrow if anyone...
Excellent solutions. And Baby with a Laser needs an award for this. Talking of speed, I live near MIA. Where's MIA?
Manchester International Airport, possibly?
Could be. Went on the Concord part there. The tour guide pointed out the seat the Queen's travelled in, so I sat on it and farted on it. Childish, I know, but I had my fun. And
we couldn't go a show without farts being mentioned.
No,
well, that's right.
I think you've worked it out now, Patrick. It's impossible. It's not possible.
And my cousin actually farted in this is years ago, this is back in the 70s, in the Prime Minister's car, because the Prime Minister's car was in the garage being repaired, and he knew the bloke there, and he said, oh, this is the Prime Minister's car. He said, excuse me, opened the door, got in and farted on the seat.
Well, maybe, you know what? Maybe there's a bit of genius in this. Maybe we need a video series, these short videos on YouTube, Peasant's Revenge. And you just get someone, and they go into these public places, drop one, and they've got a big sort of ticking it off, a bit like Train Spotting. Has anybody farted in the Manchester Greater Council? Or, no, I'll get that one done. But you've got a video footage.
That's a brilliant one. Council buildings. Police places, going to police. Excuse me, do you wish to report a crime, sir? No, I just want to fart. Here we go.
We're going to fart in their general direction or in specific places. The Farting Guide to Great Britain. Yeah, it's very British. I quite like it, actually.
Can you imagine if everybody in a protest turned their backsides round to the police and just broke one off? But seriously though, Steve, I must ask you this question. When you was on
Wait for it.
Book club. Wake up your mind. Move. Fill up your day. Oink, oink. Smart little vibes that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio. Hear FFTradio.com. Club Moo, oink.
and we just say goodbye to Food for Thought Radio, and we're still on Rumble, YouTube, and Ask About Facebook. So there we go. and it worked perfectly, and it catches me out every bleeding week. I forgot all about
We're
it.
supposed to work on that, Paul. We're supposed to get a little.
Well,
bit more
I was working on a
gradual.
lot of other things. Don't worry.
no
I'll
worries.
get you a lead-in trailer track for tomorrow night. There'll be one. So
Oh,
there'll be a
cheers.
little 30 seconds of farting in the background or something that we can get. You know, it'll be your call sign on air, really, Eric. I think that's probably the best thing. We'll
I
get
think
that
that's what
sorted
we need. I mean, I think I've got to sort out something either with my brain or with a computer, but I think it's my brain because I've got everything tits up this week. But Daisy said, amazing chats, Chris, tonight. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Daisy. It's much appreciated. And it's not down to me. It's the quality of the guests that come on. Thank you very much. You know, and Monica came on, and everybody in chat as well, because that's what makes the show. And I do appreciate the politeness in chat and the politeness of all the guests and that. And this is what I want to, as I say, put over, that we can have adult discussion and be polite and still be friends afterwards. And I've tonight, and I'd like a few more people to say in a discussion, yes, I'm wrong. I think we need more people to say that. You know, yes, I was wrong, or something like that, because it's surprising what we can learn from others. I mean, let's face it, we're wrong at most things we don't understand. So that's it.
I don't understand
that. And Andy's just said on Telegram, try and get Richard D. Hall on the show, on mine or Paul's show. Yes, I want to get Richard D. Hall on. He's gone very quiet recently, and he should come on. And so what I was going to say, Steve, is that when he was on Special Ops, you know, where it's all quiet, did anybody just break wind at the wrong time? Sorry.
Eric, what's up with you? You just always keep going back to this topic, I thought.
Yes. I mean, you know, you just creeping up on the enemy and suddenly get... Sorry.
They're not called pongos for nothing.
No.
I can tell you something worse than that. I mean,
yes.
Again, I'm not divulging trade secrets here, but I've been.
What about farting?
A little bit worse. I've been on jobs where people, and I'm not saying who, have literally crawled through human excrement without realizing it. You know, at night when you're being all sneaky beaky, it's like, oh, what's that? Imagine that. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's elements of soldiering are not quite what you see on these Call of Duty computer games.
No.
That would put
I
people
can
off.
guarantee. Yeah, I can imagine that. It is, but let's face it. Most things that people do, most occupations that people do, they only show the glossy side of things. I mean, what I was in, it was bloody hard work. You'd be knackered most of the time, and it was sometimes that you was in sort of very stressful situations. Although there's a difference between stress of losing your life any moment, as you were in, and stress of getting this bloody job done in time, you know, because there's a deadline on it, things like that. We all have our different types of stresses and things. But the thing is that I'm finding that as this is coming together, we do solutions tomorrow and 8 o'clock. And any other suggestions, Patrick, Paul, or in chat?
I like the idea of having the open line.
Yeah,
that worked out.
I think
quite
it works.
Well. Yeah,
and we could actually send them out. You know, I mean, it was quite a surprise to me that Monica was there. In fact, I didn't see her there. She was there for about 10 minutes. I was sort of talking away forward. But it's great. It really worked well, and it seems to, when things happen spontaneously, it works better. Do you find that it's something we wasn't expecting it? And Paul, you know, we didn't expect you to rock up tonight, but you rocked up. And please rock up tomorrow night. You're more than welcome. You know, everybody is.
Yeah, if only you could plan spontaneity, eh? There's the thing.
Yes.
Well, so it's like that's the thing to say about actors. Sincerity. Once you can fake that, you can fake anything. You know, so it's the same thing. Yeah.
And politicians.
But That's interesting. Anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on. Thank you for everyone in chat. Are you doing? Let's do a little bit of promotion here. I still haven't bought my what's it now? Nicotonic lemon things, and I said I would. So smack wrists,
right?
Knick-knack, yeah. So I'll be getting the lemon ones probably tomorrow. It's a bit late tonight, and also, Steve, you got any thing you want to promote at all? Books or anything?
Yeah, do that tomorrow.
Well, what about the Survival Steve's Guide to Pitchforks? Out to sharpen them because they don't like it up like that.
Do you know what? I might have to start promoting heavier and more lethal forms of weaponry now that we're starting to back down to what government are doing for us. We just ain't got it yet, so we're going to have to get ourselves more armed and capable. So.
I have this imagination of Gandhi with a pitchfork in front of Parliament, and doesn't go in my head.
Yes. Oh, Evelyn Court said stink bombs.
Like it.
Well, my dad when he was young, so he had an older sister. No, I got an older sister, and his older sister met this fella, and they was having a kiss and cuddle. The step at night, and my dad opened the window quietly and dropped a stink bomb.
I have something to add to tomorrow's broadcast. If we do it and I show up later, I'd like to talk a little bit more about this idea of primogeniture. And it's kind of a new word to most people, but what it is it's essentially the idea. It comes from the Bible, from Deuteronomy, where the firstborn son of the man, of his wife, inherits the land in a double portion to the rest of the children, but it keeps the land in the family and the property. So I'd like to talk more about that.
Okay, far away. It's open. Paul, what would you like to open up on? Anything you want to open up on, mate?
It's a long time between now and tomorrow night. I'm doing a show from 7 till 8, so I won't join you immediately at 8 because I need a cup of tea usually after that. So I'll probably be with you around about 9 if I can make it, which I probably can. Well, I just like this idea of talking about solutions, how we actually...
Yeah.
I just always sense we're always describing the problem. I am a lot. There's a place for that, but then there's another communication that's to be had. It's the one that's not being had enough. Is like, yeah, and then there's the action plan. And I suspect one of the reasons why they're not spoken about is that they imply action and that you've got to do something. Right. And it's this, and and I don't think it even matters how. It could be just a very small thing. I sense, I could be wrong here, that people are quite resistant to that because it gets the ball rolling and it's going to change the rhythm and nature of your day and your week and your month and your life. And that is actually what's required. I can't, if we carry on behaving the way we carry on behaving, we're going to just keep on getting the same stuff. About the only intelligent thing that Einstein ever said, really. And, so it's learning how to engage with that. And it's not about marching and all that other stuff because that's more of that prone victim nonsense. It's just all blather, is that?
Just bullshit.
Yeah, it is. And I do think education forms a key part of it, simply because if you want to transmit ideas that are going to raise us all up, you've got to have people that can get to grips with some of the sentences that you've got to say. And many of the sentences that we say and the topics we talk about are almost alien to people out there. I think
I agree with you.
It's very difficult. Let's talk about banking. Why? Why would we want to do that? No, it's just, I think we need to. We need to talk about it. So,
well, it's going to be an exciting show. Sorry.
Yeah. Just one more thing. What I was talking about with the primogeniture. That actually fits perfectly in this idea of solutions, because I'm finding that that's going to be a big thing that I'm looking into more and more about, a solution to get out of the mess that we're in. Because that actually is important, because it's one of the few inalienable rights granted by God in the Bible. So that's how important that is.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. And Steve, anything you think up during the day. And it's been a great evening. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And remember, shove the old thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. And good night.